Testing 1, 2, 3. I keep forgetting that I only have the 2 minute countdown. I used to have 5 minutes, so now it's 2 minutes. It's shorter because apparently my streaming service they used to offer 5 minutes. Now it's only 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then it jumps to 10 minutes, and you don't need a 10 minutes unless I have some sponsors to roll, which I do not right now. But anyway, guys, happy Monday. Yes. Monday is always a slow day, which is what I like about Mondays. Um, but it's a very interesting news day because it actually sets the pace of what is to come during the week when it comes to news, politics, entertainment, or what have you. So we're going to have a good show. Of course, we have to sit up here and wait for the judge to come on, even though I told him over 10 minutes ago to log on now because his Wi-Fi is like snail, Pony Express Wi-Fi. Um, so please like and please share this video. Hit the like button. And the topic of discussions, we got to talk about Operation Gold Rush. Yes, honey. The Trump administration created Operation Gold Rush to crack down on medical fraud. It's a lot of medical fraud going on throughout this whole nation, right? So I'm going to be doing more content on that. It's not just the Somalis, it's not just the immigrants, it's not just the illegals participating in medical fraud. It's white people, black people, all kinds of people, American citizens, and I'm sorry, it is affecting our seniors. It is affecting middle age, such as myself, and it definitely going to be affecting young people. So yeah, Operation Gold Rush. We'll get into that a little bit later. And of course, Iran, we have an Iran/USA war update because Trump is throwing around ceasefire. So I guess it is winding down, which is getting closer to that 4 to 6 week mark. And remember, guys, next week, Trump is going to China to meet with the president of China, Xi Jinping. And I hope I'm saying his name right. You said the volume is in and out, honey. I don't think it's me. I think it's you. Guys, let me know. Is the that 4 to 6 week mark? And remember, guys, next week Trump is going to China to meet with the president of China, Xi Jinping. And I hope I'm saying his name. Okay, honey. Dre Day, get your audio together. Update your phone. Maybe you got to update your YouTube app or however you watching the show. It is not me. Thank you. If anybody else think I have an audio issue, please let me know in the chat and don't come strolling with that. So anyway, yeah, so next week Trump will be meeting with China. And oh, honey, we got to talk about TSA Chaos, TSA, which goes into the SAVE Act, right? Democrats is the cause of all TSA. The TSA delays, the TSA, backlog planes, it's going to be affecting their airlines. Some airports are saying that they're going to close. And you know what? I think all airports should close until the Democrats pass the SAVE Act. Trump is supposed to be sending in ICE agents to help. But if I was a TSA agent, I wouldn't come into work either. If I'm not getting paid, they probably done found a job somewhere else. People are living paycheck to paycheck, majority of Americans. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into data centers. I have Rosemary coming up at the 4 o'clock hour to talk about data centers, the biggest data center that's supposed to be built in the state of Ohio. And what else? Oh, Ilhan, Fanny, and of course, Justin Timberlake, honey. We got the body cam. That's my sprinkle of pop culture. We got the Justin Timberlake Bodycam. And but I want to start off with Trump in Memphis. Yeah. Trump was in Memphis today. He held a round table with local public officials. The governor of Tennessee was there. The sheriff of Memphis was there. Marsha Blackburn was there. And of course, Trump administration was with him. Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, a whole lot of others, right? And I think I do have a clip. And that's this one. So let me share this. Let's see here.
All right, now we're just a few hours away from President Trump's visit to Memphis. Now, he's coming to highlight the work of the Memphis Safe Task Force. Now, he's created that roughly about 6 months ago. The president will take part in a roundtable conversation while here, and a Memphis mother will be right in the middle of it all. Fox 13's Martin Staunton joins us live right now in Memphis International Airport, where the president will arrive just a little bit in the morning. Now, Martin, the president isn't coming for a rally or a speech, but
he's force made in her neighborhood, and that has it's in
conversation.
That's right, Rob. And this event is not open to the public. It's invite only. And one of the few on the list is Delicia Ballinger. She made very public praise of the difference the Memphis task force made in her neighborhood, and that has earned her a seat at the table with the President of the United States.
I have definitely seen a difference within my neighborhood. At one point, gunshots was a normalcy. It was a thing that my children and I heard on a daily basis. Amongst other things, I've been a victim of crimes such as burglaries and other things. And so when the Memphis Safe Task Force came, it seemed like after a few weeks, everything ceased.
Delicia Ballinger went viral after posting those sentiments on social media, a video that brought national attention to her for thanking the president for the memo that created the task force.
Thank you to Trump.
The mother of two lost her freelance gig writing for the Tri-State Defender newspaper when its editors questioned her impartiality. Ballinger said that she was expressing her personal opinion as a mother concerned about safety. She told Fox 13 it was worth it.
Absolutely. People want to put, parties on this and, the fact that he's President Trump, and they may have their own personal feelings toward it. But at the end of the day, he did something impactful.
In posts shared online, Ballinger described how the increased security presence allowed her young son, Braylon, to finally play outside without fear.
It was really just a cold day, a really nice day in October, and I'm walking to my mailbox, and that's when I kind of noticed. I just was just taking a brief moment and just noticing it's people outside. There's, playing and, all of that, and it was just abnormal quiet. It was great, but at the same time, because I was so used to the gunshots, it was abnormal. And so they truly made a difference for my children and I.
Ballinger's 12-year-old son, Braylon, also stepped into the spotlight thanking President Trump.
I just wanted to give my thanks to him for sending the National Guard here because, as I stated before, I feel like the crime rate has really slowed down. So I just wanted to give my thanks to him.
For the administration, Ballinger represents the human impact of the Memphis Safe Task Force. For this mom, sharing her experience directly with the commander-in-chief is something she never expected.
Be at the table, to have that seat at the table, with the president and actually share with him my concerns, definitely the things that happened prior to, and to also give him my opinion on the things that has been happening now, and how do we come to some sort of resolution where this is a continual thing to keep Memphians safe.
And Delicia Ballard says that she wasn't always a Trump supporter. In fact, she says that she was a liberal Democrat for years. We'll tell you what changed her mind in addition to the task force effort. That's coming up a little later in this newscast, Rob.
Okay. Hey, Judge, how are you?
I'm glad she's getting some play tri-state defender has really gone down. A Bernal Smith had acquired it, and unfortunately, this very capable and accomplished young man died in his sleep before he got out of his 30s. So the tri-state defender is no longer in his able hands. And it has become a propaganda engine for the Democratic Party here, particularly the young Democrats who are so far to the left and just totally embracing that rainbow lesbian gay thing to the extent that often when they speak places, they say that the primary problem with Memphis is not crime, it's not employment, it's got to do with the black community not having sufficiently amicable relations with the gay community. And that's like nonsense. So it's not surprising. But she courageously spoke out, and I'm proud of her. And I'm glad we've got some hope here in Memphis for a new generation to step up and start looking at things with logic, rationality, reason, and objectivity rather than the emotions that have been inculcated into them because of a massive propaganda campaign that's been going on for a long while in this area. Now, Mr. Trump is here today, but I think he's meeting with some people who are part of the problem, who have assisted greatly in setting up the mess that the Memphis Safe Task Force is here to clean up, and that is Paul Young, the mayor of Memphis, and Lee Harris, the county mayor of Memphis, and some others that I classify as outright scoundrels who've done nothing but assist their buddies in misappropriating funds, having tax dollars spent unwisely, too prolifically, and for things that the people do not need, and neglecting totally those things that should be looked into. And I think, if anything, they need to be investigated and grand juries need to take a peep into what they've been up to. But I'm not the president, and I support him for what he's done and for the fact that through his impetus, we have had the Memphis Safe Task Force developed. And I'd also like to thank the U.S. Marshal, who streamlined things a bit by simply deputizing some of the National Guardsmen and making them deputy U.S. Marshals. Now, we've got ICE here, we've got DEA here, we've got Homeland Security here, we've got the FBI here, and we've got IRS here. And IRS, I'm glad to see because as we know, that gangster Al Capone, Mr. Murder Incorporated, he went to jail for tax evasion, not for his gangsterism. But I'm glad they're here, and I'm glad things are changing. And Memphis was the most dangerous place in the United States and the 10th most dangerous city in the whole world. And I can say the same thing the young lady was observing, that the indicia of crime, violent crime, the gun shops that you could not go anywhere without hearing, have now abated to a great extent, and the people are acting more civilized, and good people are coming out again and going for a walk down the sidewalk to get in exercise, or feeling a little bit more comfortable about stopping to get gas or going in a store without worrying about somebody holding the place up. And cars can be parked, and commerce and visitation can be had, stores patronized because the customers are not worried about their cars getting their windows smashed and burglarized. And it was also unfortunate, but Memphis was the capital of the country in that respect too. So things
So,
are changing.
well, there are people, of course, Democrats, who have a problem with Trump coming. And this state representative, was his name, Justin Pearson, This is what he had to say about Trump visit.
Hey, Just.
Hey there.
How you feel about this Trump visit tomorrow?
Listen, he ain't welcome here, man, as I said before. The reality is he's trying to use us as a part of his authoritarian playbook and his scheme and treating our city as a pawn. This is a beautiful place, but we don't want him here. He hasn't actually helped contribute any other necessary resources to reduce poverty. He's a racist, posting images of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, the First Lady and President of the United States, as apes. He started a war in Iran that is unwinnable. This man is using us, and anyone who has any sense of who he truly is doesn't need to stand there. It needs to instead be with the community tomorrow as we protest, as we speak up, and as we fight to end the unsafe task force and demand that we have poverty eradication and not military occupation.
He's a fake. That was him rather than his usual imitations of either Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, or T.D. Jakes. I guess he stopped the T.D. Jakes little clown show he would put on, considering what T.D. Jakes has been discovered to have been into. And the interesting thing is the person that he succeeds, or takes over from, because she's now dead, was the late, great Dr. Barbara Cooper, one of the unsung locals, who I first met, I think, in around 1973, 1974. And I always helped her and encouraged her. And the last time she got elected to the state representative position that he now holds, she got almost 35,000 votes. And the most he's ever gotten, which in the two elections he's been in, one was for the remainder of an unfilled term and then an election. And he got somewhat less than 2,000 total votes, which is a hell of a lot less than 35,000. But interestingly enough, some people, if you go to followthemoney.org, have seen fit to contribute almost $1 million to his campaign war chest. And it bothers everyone who sees it, because 2,000 votes or less that you get to get in office, and that's worth $1 million. And it seems he's also committing some very bad fraud. He's faking it again in Nashville, where he is strongly anti-gun. In Memphis, he's going around trying to bamboozle the gun shop owners and firing range proprietors and the people around here, claiming that he is pro-gun and he's trying to show that he's carrying one around on his hip. But in Nashville, he's strongly anti-gun. So he's a liar. He's a fake. And I think his problem is that he just has not gotten enough under the table to satisfy himself. And he has ambition to be somebody big in the world at the expense of the citizens here in Memphis. He's told the tale on Musk about his XAI here in Memphis being in violation of environmental protection
Well,
requirements.
it wasn't just him.
Well,
So
no, but I know all of them, and he just is at the forefront. He's not the only one, but EPA hasn't even checked Musk operation, and it's not even due for a check. But he voluntarily submitted to it, and he's cleared. But that doesn't clear up the lie that Pearson and his ilk are telling. That's Tammy Sawyer, Van Turner, Paul Young, Lee Harris, and they've done enough hands under the table to see what gets put in there, or turn around to see what gets slipped into their back pockets enough for that to be a problem. And see, I represented some of their predecessors. I can't talk about them because they were my clients, but I know the closets in which the skeletons are located and where all of the damn graveyards are. And I know all of the scams and schemes from the Millington Mafia, which rips off the public by coming up with construction projects that are not needed. And exorbitant prices are charged. I know about the fraud with Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, I know about what's going on with the Sheraton Hotel, the what we call the Greyhound Bus Depot development, the parks, etc. I can go on at great length. I know what they're doing and what they're stealing and why they want it to be chaos because that distracts from their criminality. Now, the other problem is, and I'm representing a Charlotte Bergman as her communications director, and she's running for U.S. Congress against Steve Cohen. And we are trying to implement a real change in what goes on so government is for the people, not something that rips off the people. And we know what they're doing and why they're telling tales about it. And we issued a challenge to them that they will not accept. And that's simply, hey, this is a grandmother here, a good sister. And let's go walk out in the neighborhoods that you're supposed to represent without any armed security floating around. Let's see if you have the nerve to do it. And these people don't because they are too frightened of the people that they're supposed to represent to go out and walk amongst them. And this criminality that they have promoted by the nonsense you just heard is ridiculous because I get out more than he does. I get around to more people than he does. More people know me. I've been around here longer, and I haven't heard anybody outside of regulars for the Democratic Party say that they're upset by the Memphis Safe Task Force because everybody is saying, hey, man, like, look, we
They're
haven't
more
been able to come
positive.
out before.
They're more positive than there are negative with the task force, and that's one of the reasons why Trump came to Memphis today.
Yes.
We talk about that. So there were some Democrats there, like I said, local
Oh,
officials.
the hell with them. They're the crooks. They're going to wind up going to jail like their predecessors did. Every now and then, there is a sting operation, and
That's fine.
15, 20 of them go to
Fine.
jail.
So I want to move on to the Iran war, because there is an update. It's constant updates. Trump plans on slowing it down. That wasn't his exact words, but he did float around saying that a ceasefire is possible. So let me just share this.
Truth Social just moments ago. Quote, I am pleased to report that the U.S. and Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East.
Whoa. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst is live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Trey, does that catch you by surprise?
Absolutely. This is a major development. President Trump taking to Truth Social, not only to say there are very good and productive conversations taking place between the United States and Iran, but he goes on to say he's ordered the Department of War to postpone for at least 5 days strikes against Iran's energy and power infrastructure. This comes after the president issued that ultimatum over the weekend about opening the Strait of Hormuz. We don't have any additional information at this point into the president's thinking about this, but this is a president who has applied immense pressure on the Iranian regime through thousands of airstrikes over the past 3 weeks. And this, again, is a president who in the past has indicated he prefers a diplomatic option when one is available. The images you see here are Iranian ballistic missiles soaring through the skies of Israel over the weekend. There were dozens of attacks that took place, the Israelis striking back against Iran's storage facilities for these missiles, going after many of not only the production lines, but where they keep these missiles and launchers. We understand they've been quite successful in those strikes, although the Iranians are still able to get off much of the incoming missile fire here to Israel. In the city of Arad over the weekend, we visited there yesterday, more than 100 people were wounded in a single Iranian ballistic missile attack. But while the focus was there in the south of Israel, regional focus also on the Strait of Hormuz, where President Trump referenced over the weekend the possibility of conducting additional strikes that appear now to be off the table, at least for 5 days. I asked Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about that post.
Okay, if you're still getting Slack messages asking, how do I do that thing again? I'm about to change your life.
President Trump said that if in 48 hours the Iranians don't open the Strait of Hormuz, that there will be strikes against the power grids in Iran. Will you participate in those strikes, and what do you think should happen next in this campaign?
I think President Trump knows exactly what he's doing, and whatever we do together, and as far as possible in confidence.
So again, the president just breaking some news this morning saying that there will be a 5-day delay to any strikes on Iran's power and energy infrastructure. The Israelis not just looking to the east, but also north to the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. You can see some of the exchanges of fire there in southern Israel. As a top spokesperson for the Israeli military said this about the length of the campaign.
The citizens of Israel, more weeks of fighting against Iran and Hezbollah are expected for us. With each passing day, we are weakening the terror regime more and more. We will not allow the terror regime and its proxies to constitute a threat against Israeli citizens and against the existence of the state of Israel.
All right, so I just want to pause it there right now.
What you're hearing is the United States has achieved complete and absolute air superiority, which means there's nothing that Iran can do to stop anything we choose to do. And we have certainly not unleashed the full power of our strategic air forces on them, nor our naval forces on them. And I'm sure they know it, so they're being given a little chance, 5 days to regroup, to negotiate it, to put a few people on the wall that are resistant to the idea due to fanaticism, shoot them, and then come back to the table and say, okay, we'll sign where. Now,
Let me read this
yeah.
Trump social post here. It says, I am pleased to report the United States of America and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week. I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. He posted this, and so did Secretary Rubio. However, I want to play this clip here because this was posted today, and this was posted yesterday. Iran's military spokesperson delivers a message in English to Trump.
Hey Trump, you are fired. You are familiar with this sentence. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The central headquarters of Khatam al-Anbiya. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. نظامیان دشمن، همانها که فرار را برقرار ترجیح می‌دهند، همان اربابان شکست‌های متوالی که مردم مسلمان منطقه را سپر انسانی خود قرار می‌دهند، ترسی را در سلول خود می‌بینند تا موعد اصابت‌های ما فرا برسد و حتی قبل از اصابت از ترس خلاص شوند و این سزای هر دشمنی است که به امنیت مردم ما نگاه سو داشته باشد. Hey Trump, you are fired. You are familiar with this sentence. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The central headquarters.
So, hey Trump, you're fired. You're familiar with this sentence. Thank you for your attention.
Saving face. That's what it's called. See, they have internal fanatics that are trying to hold stuff up because they'd rather die than give in, and they think the whole thing is about the Western boogeyman and all the rest of it. But the truth of the matter is damn near anybody in the Middle East that's running a government situation wishes Iran would go away. Iran's been putting out some fake claims about the damage they're doing to Israel, and before that also to Saudi Arabia. Well, at the same time to Saudi Arabia. They're exaggerations, they're propagandistic, but Iran and Israel, and with the contrivance of Egypt, are pushing that narrative that they've been attacking to give their locals a justification for going against Iran. It's crossed the line from being a Jewish, Islamic, Christian dispute because Now Saudi Arabia is saying they've been messing with us, so they have to be put in their place. And there's still this huge body of repressed sentiment in Iran that was very happy some years ago when the Shah was trying to take Iran to the forefront of westernization. And the Ayatollah Khomeini led a revolution that overthrew the Shah and imposed a fanatical religious regime. And there's nothing wrong with the religion, certainly not, but fanaticism, whether it is Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, is not a good thing for anybody. So
Well, I want to play
we've
this
got a
clip.
problem that is going to be resolved, and this is a chess game you're looking at.
Right. It is. I want to play this clip here. Listen, I like Candace, and I like the guest that she bring up here.
How can you believe a country that has a very lucrative history of false flags operation? When they created the state of Israel, they didn't know how to bring all of these Jewish people from the Arab countries. It was easy to bring them from Europe, but they didn't. But they, like Jewish people in Iraq and in Egypt and Morocco lived there for hundreds of years. So they needed to push them. So 1951, Israel sends a Mossad agent, and then he leads 4 to 5 different bomb attacks on Jewish synagogues and Jewish communities. They killed their own people.
October 7th.
And yes, and that happened in Iraq. And then because of that, 150,000 Jews went in just like a year and a half to Israel. After Iraq, he went to Egypt, and he led the Lavon affair in 1954. And you know what's funny about the Lavon affair? Israel denied any connection to those people, of course, for 51 years. And then in 2005, they finally acknowledged it by giving the participants in the Lavon affair operation participation certificates, like an Amazon card or something. And then 1994, the bombing of the Israeli embassy in London, it was done by Mossad. And then they kind of nailed 2 Palestinians for it. 1 month after 9/11, which is the biggest false flag operation, in October 2001, there was an attack of the Mexican parliament by 2 Mossad individuals, and they were also like being, they pretended to be Palestinians, but they were discovered before the bombing, the USS Liberty. Well, there has been investigation, and it was obviously wrong, and it was obvious, and it was proved beyond any doubt that it was a mistake, which wasn't. There was a lot of investigation where they weren't. Actually, the crew of the USS Liberty were threatened. They had a gag order. They couldn't talk. And you know, the beauty about this is that for 15 years, Israel fought this tooth and nail, and they finally paid compensation. You know how much did they pay? $6 million for damages in the USS Liberties, and $6 million for the victims of the USS Liberty. This is the value of USS soldiers. How can you believe a country that lies 24/7 like this? How can we take anything that they say for face value?
So I agree that there are a lot of false flags, especially when you're at war or if it's this terrorist attack, because there were false flags 9/11. We didn't see it at the time till years later. Like he said, the London bus that blew up, that terrorist attack, behind that was Mossad. And it then what struck to me, the light bulb went off in my head. You know, the state of Israel was created in the 1950s, right after World War II, or towards the end of World War II. And it's like, yeah, how did you get all of these Jewish people that you see now to come to Israel? There were majority of them was European, but people just assume that there were no Jewish people in Iran and Iraq and all these other Muslim, Arab nations, and they were, but the Mossad had to create these terrorist attacks to make it look like, oh, that government, that Muslim government or regime is attacking Jews. So Jewish people come back home, come to Israel. And so this has been going on for decades. So what he's saying is, how can you trust anyone that have a history of these, false flags? And America, we have false flags as well.
It's a little bit more complicated than the way he put it.
Well, he simplified it, and we're not going to go
And very much, and
right
some of
now.
it is valid and some of it's not. But
Right.
you have to recall that for the last several thousand years, from way back 4,000 years ago, 4,500 years ago, with their hieroglyphics, the Egyptians put on the walls of their tombs something similar to the modern phrase of all's fair in love and war. Now, if you're going to die because you are confronted by a resisting force, what you do is deceive the would-be resisting force so that they aren't prepared or they aren't there or they're looking for something else rather than you showing up to have a good war with you. Now, Clausewitz, General Clausewitz, a Prussian general, 160 some years ago, 70 years ago, published a treatise called On War. And that is something that
Before
aspiring
can I
officers, go ahead.
can I pause you for a second to read this comment? It was he go, LOL. This is Poppy Golden Son. LOL. Boule Brown is something else. Israel sympathizer. I'm out.
Oh, fuck you, you asshole. Stupid ass. Now, get off of your goddamn stupid, ignorant position and start thinking. You don't give a damn who this is that takes a bullet instead of you. So if you got any sense, you get allies. Now, whether you like somebody or not does not have anything to do with whether or not you have an active and effective alliance with them. This is not for the like of Israel. This is just talking about what's known as military science. Foolish one, get off of your emotionalism. And if you want to see a picture of how it works, take a look at World War II pictures where you have Winston Churchill,
Yeah.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Joe Stalin, and none of them liked each other. And their main focus was taking down Adolf, Benito, and Tojo, and they did. Then after that, when it was over, then they got into it. So understand what the hell is going on and stop being so damn simplistic. They've got you thinking that your emotions are sufficient to deal with anything and everything you want. So don't let them trick you. And by the way, do you have a Japanese or German car in your driveway? Volkswagen, BMW,
Japanese.
Porsche? Do you have an Audi? Do you have a Toyota, Mitsubishi?
I have a Hyundai. I think that's either
Yeah, Hyundai. That's Korean, by the way. But
Korea,
anyway,
Korea.
you have an Asian or a German car, most likely in your driveway, or one that an American car company collaborated with one of the above in making. So, you know, I don't know about you. My old man got wounded twice at Bastogne by some of those folk. And I know a lot of folk who had relatives or people that I knew now dead, long dead, that got wounded in Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and all kinds of other places. But you get over it, and you probably like sushi, or you know how to use chopsticks, or you want to take karate or kung fu. So you got nerve sitting up here talking about this xenophobic bullshit. Get over it. Move on.
Here's the thing. I wasn't just pointing out Poppy comment. There are a lot of people that share his same
I
sentiments.
know that, and it's foolish.
And so
And
you're
there's
basically saying it's not about taking Israel's side or taking Iran's side or being a Israeli sympathizer. It's not about it's so much bigger and deeper than that. And we need to understand geopolitics, you know, the art of war, the art of military tactics and strategy. But just real quick, I'm going to swing back to
exactly.
But I'm going to swing back to false flags because Judge Trump saying that you know it's going to be in temporary ceasefire. He's not going to keep bombing. We're going to talk, right? But it's funny because next week he's going to China to meet with the president of China. So it's funny that he's like, okay, we're going to stop bombing you and have you come to the table. But do you think Trump visiting China next week to speak with the president has anything to do with the ceasefire?
Perhaps.
Okay. And
But
that's
you see,
part
we're
of
not,
his strategy, right?
let me say something. Get ready for what's known as political theater. Understand what that is, because there are ignorant people out there, a lot of them in the world. You have to put on a display to keep them happy. The people that know what's going on just sort of keep a little hidden semi-smile going about, look at the fools buying this crap. A lot of it is political theater. Now, China sells 80-some% of its products here in the United States. They essentially control the American dollar and its value. They provide stability to every stock exchange in the world, and that is a good thing. The fact that they're doing that ought to keep us on our toes so we stop dealing with this bullshit entitlement where everybody's supposed to be dependent and entitled and not earn any damn thing, and understand that the Chinese are working their behinds off trying to get to be the best in the world, and we are falling back. And if we fall back, you're going to need to teach your grandchildren or have them taught Mandarin Chinese rather than English. So it might be something as a wake-up call. Get up off your ass, quit looking at a damn football game, and start paying attention to what the devil is really going on in the world. Now, if you want to see what's going on about what the guest in front of Miss Owens was talking about, read Menachem Begin's autobiography. He was a captain in the British Army. He was in the commandos. He was a commando. And he has helped set up some of the military units in Israel before he wound up becoming prime minister. And in his autobiography, he talks about all of the persons that he individually and collectively assassinated, the mosque, the schools, the hospitals that he blew up, dispensing terrorism, and you get the idea. You've got a long-standing 1,400-year-old history here that is compounded by the Shiites and the Sunnis going at each other in Islam. That goes back to the 11th century and before. You've got a situation where for 1,000 years, all the way up until the 15th century, Spain, El Andalus, it used to be called, was part of the Islamic hegemony. And the only place in the whole world the Jewish population could get any security was inside the borders of Islam. And a lot of folk who are Muslim feel very badly betrayed by being turned on by the Jewish community that they once protected. Now, that is a problem that is big. That goes back a long way. You've got Saladin, he's known in the West. You've got the first crusade that started off in 1099, the second one, the third one with Richard the Lionheart and Saladin and such like. And these things are very interesting when you deal with the historical consequences. So we're still feeling the impacts of that stupid ass of an idiot Pope who decided that he was going to diffuse some of the internecine violence in Europe and sick all of these men-at-arms on the Muslims in these unholy crusades. Now,
All right.
That is something we can't undo, but we need to understand it and get a grip on it and stop going around trying to be self-righteous and not even understanding anything other than that somebody told you you should hate somebody. Now, humans suffer from a congenital condition known as xenophobia. That is dislike for, distrust of, fear or phobia of the unknown or the different.
Right.
And what usually happens is that keeps a lot of stuff happening until something comes along that causes the parties that are being xenophobic against each other to realize they've got more in common than something outside. Example, go take a look at Robin Hood and his merry men, King John and King Richard, and et cetera, and find out what that's all about. The Saxons and the Normans. Go find out what that's about. You see
Right.
all of these
You know,
Saxon
before that,
immigrants that, wait, just one little quick more thing. All of these woke folk complaining about racism. Most of that racism that you're complaining about was set up by Saxon immigrants from England to the United States. Now, if you go back about the same length of time before they started immigrating to the United States, as has passed since then, you will find that they were enslaved by the Norman invaders who, under William the Conqueror, came over and kicked their ass and put them in a place of subservience and enslavement. So it gets passed on.
right.
And I guess when some aliens land or something, not the ones from south of the border, but from somewhere off planet, then everybody will be together because we'll be more alike than whatever comes down and pays a visit.
All right. We got to move on to one more thing before, because Rosemary, who is running for Congress in the state of Ohio, she is coming up in about 10 minutes. So we got to, because I want to discuss data centers. Guys, please hit the like button. Please share. We have so much more to talk about, and we're just really getting started. Let me just say this, and I'm about to blow up the judge spot. If you go out on a Sunday, you need to be home before 10 p.m. because you look like you have a slight hangover. And I was on the phone with you yesterday when you were out and
Oh,
about.
will you stop talking that shit? Don't even bring that up. I've been meeting with some people. I told you I
Yes,
was
but you
helping
look
somebody run
tired.
for Congress, and I also was campaigning for her at a place in Memphis called the Happy Mexican. It's located on
Right.
Winchester.
So what time did
And
you
in
get
spite
out?
of the name, that's where all of the black folk who are middle class or above hang out in Memphis.
What time did you get home?
Well, I made some stops, but anyway.
Do me a favor, pull your camera down a little bit because it's too. I see more of the top part than you being centered.
Well,
Yeah, that's
anyway.
so.
It is rough. If you're going to politic, you go to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and you have meetings with people who tell you stuff that
You
you
look like
can't
you're
put
tired.
out. I am tired. Been up late researching stuff. This doesn't come off the top of your head. You got to look at this. And by the way, I'm not moving. I can't. I'm fixed on the screen.
Oh,
I
you're
can
not
hear
fixed
I'm
on my
talking.
end. You're not fixed on my end.
Well, yeah, okay, but all I'm looking at is a fixed image down here, which isn't bad, but it is what it is. So, I mean, when you campaign or you do what this is saying, that requires research. You got to go study stuff. You just don't talk off the top of your head. You go look at something. What does this say? Oh, that doesn't seem right. Well, let me check this out. This is an interesting lead here. Let's see where it goes to. An interesting thread. All right. That's not logical, but it suggests something else. So you read all this stuff and you analyze it and you put it into perspective of your life experience and what you know in terms of the knowledge that's inside your
That's all well and
skull.
good, honey. That's all well and good. That's all well and
Yeah,
good.
well, I mean, you got to stay up. It doesn't come. My watch
Well, I ain't telling people. I'm not telling people your business.
I know, but my watch tells me I need more sleep. I'm getting.
Right, but the fact is that I'm just saying, when you got home, you should have went straight to bed because you don't like to go. You like to go to sleep late, and sometimes you do need to go to bed a little bit early.
You know, my watch says I got 4 hours. I averaged 4 hours, 17 minutes of sleep all last month. Yeah.
Well, all right.
Oh.
I want to kind of stay on Iran, but from a different perspective, because this video is of a father of one of the soldiers who got killed in this Iran-U.S. war. So I want to play this clip.
They said, finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this.
Those comments by War Secretary Pete Hegseth are causing a major controversy tonight.
During a Pentagon briefing about the 6 American service members who were killed in Iraq, Hegseth said their families told him to finish the war in Iran. 3 of those airmen were from right here in Ohio, and the father of Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons tells ABC6 that was not what they talked about.
He sat down with our Terry Sullivan today.
Just so proud of him. It was an honor to be his father, and I was so blessed to have him as a son.
Milo Simmons glows when he talks about his only son, Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons.
He had just a magnanimous personality, never met a stranger, would light up the room with his smile, with his disposition.
Tyler Simmons was among 6 crew members killed when their refueling plane crashed in Iraq. Simmons says last Monday's ceremony at Dover Air Force Base is still surreal. The Simmons family was the first to be greeted by the president and his team.
Much to my pleasant surprise, I saw emotion in the president's face. Because usually when you see him on television, he's just being the stern leader. I get that. But his humanity showed in that moment.
And then Defense Secretary Hegseth
Shook hands, conveyed to him Tyler was my only son. And they had been briefed on his record, so they were aware of his record. And, you know, we embraced, thanked me for Tyler's service.
They said, finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this.
So that's not your experience?
No. I set the tone. Right out the bat. Thank you for being here, for Tyler Simmons. And so I can't speak to what he said to other families because I wasn't in there.
Simmons says his words were later twisted by a different group.
And their headline was, Defense Secretary is called out to be a liar by the father of Tyler Simmons. I didn't say that. And I did give them a rebuttal. I don't appreciate it when the media takes a tragedy and wants to use it as a political diving board, per se. I think that is profoundly shows a lack of integrity and is not what journalism is supposed to be about.
Simmons says the focus should be on the lives that were lost.
They were heroes, and that should be the focus. Keep politics in its place. But from my position, this is no place for politics. Honoring our fallen, honoring our loved ones.
Loved ones who gave the ultimate sacrifice. On your side, Terry Sullivan, ABC 6 News.
The 3 Ohio airmen served in the 121st Air Refueling Wing with the Air National Guard out of Rickenbacker. Adjutant General Matthew Woodruff commands the Ohio Army National Guard, and he has been spending time with the local wing and the families of those fallen airmen. He says they faced complex work. They helped refuel planes while in midair. Woodruff was part of that dignified transfer for those fallen service members at Dover Air Force Base earlier this week. He says that gathering was an important moment for those families.
One of the really humbling things about the dignified transfer was we had put a request in
if the families wanted to, that they could fly back with us on a KC-135 that we took out there. And they all came back with us. And I think that was probably a really good experience. I hope it was a good experience for them.
A dignified arrival at Rickenbacker is expected in the coming weeks. The Pentagon is still investigating this plane crash, but says it was not hit by hostile or friendly fire. General Woodruff says prevention efforts will be strengthened after this incident to ensure the safety of servicemen.
Okay.
It was a tragedy. It was not combat related. It was during a refueling incident, and the other aircraft involved was able to safely make it back to base with no loss of personnel. Now, the KC-135, which is the basis for the tanker in question, is essentially an old Boeing 707, one of the first American jet aircraft that was operational. I've ridden on one a time or two or three or four or five, and essentially they're re-engined, have new avionics and some improvement, but it's a aircraft that went into service, 65, back, if I recall correctly, about 1960. And I had a friend whose son piloted one of those aircraft, a tanker, and he related to me a few near misses that they had. And if you watch this series they have on TV, Air Disasters, sometimes they cover some of the accidents and situations. And the most notorious one was there was a B-52 with two nukes on board that hit turbulence while it was refueling from a KC-135, and the vertical stabilizer got damaged, and the B-52 went down off of the coast of Spain, and there was a big mess trying to recover the two nukes and a concern about the release of radioactivity. Now, those things happen, and anytime you have a service like the Air Force doing what it's doing, you're going to have accidents. If you happen to live near an air base where they have the big aircraft, B-52s, the Bones or B-1s, and the B-2s, you will see them doing touch and goes continuously. They come in, land, and then they hit the throttles and they take off again, come back in the circuit and keep doing it for hours until they perfect the technique of landing these very large and heavy aircraft. And these KC-135s or the KC-10s they have are up there refueling them. So this is something that goes on very regularly, and the pilots for these tankers are called upon to conduct many air refuelings every day or every few days, and they're hazardous. Sometimes they don't come off. Sometimes there are accidents. Sometimes the accidents result in the loss of aircraft. Sometimes they result in the loss of life and aircraft. So it's not safe, it's dangerous. And that's what comes of being a volunteer in the armed services of your country. Now, I come from a generation where we got drafted and we were utilized as a human resource of the United States. And that was another thing. And now in the 70s, what happened to most of my generation became a matter of volunteering. But I feel very sorry for this father. He sounds like a very intelligent man. And as we have heard, both sides were trying to misconstrue and misuse what he said. I think what the president was saying was more in line with what his thoughts probably were, which is, in other words, we were about some business for the country. My son volunteered to do things for this country, so we wouldn't want to just give up what he died for. And I say that with a heartfelt appreciation because my son just recently, well, to me, got out of the Navy. So it is what it is. And see, if you're my age, you were acquainted with a lot of people that didn't make it back from the Nam. You understood what it was about, and your parents and your grandparents, aunts and uncles, they understood what it was to get those telegrams during the course of the Korean War and World War II. And there were some of the older ones, some of the older grandparents who understood what it was like to get those notices way back in World War One.
Right.
So it's a different perspective. And then in terms of the death toll we're talking about, not just these 6 that were killed in this refueling, but non-combat accident. The death toll isn't as bad as it is being in Memphis, Tennessee. In fact, you'd probably be more in jeopardy of suffering a wound or loss of your life being here in Memphis. In Memphis, you've seen this refrigerator that's halfway out of the wall. The gentleman I had working on the refrigerator had lost his son due to violence in Memphis. Somebody that was helping me out with some podcasts some years ago lost 2 sons in Memphis, and they weren't out on the streets doing anything. One just got off from his job and dropped off a coworker, and as he was pulling away from the guy's apartment, somebody shot him to death. And the other one was coming out of a store when he got shot to death. So, I mean, it's dangerous being in America these days. But people don't understand that, and they're saying, keep the task force out. But they get all worked up over something like this when the death toll actually is less abroad and people are volunteering for something dangerous, like becoming a law enforcement officer. But yet they want to turn right around and promote theft and death on the streets that they live off of, or excuse me, some of their constituents live off of or on, and they don't care because it suits their purposes.
Right. And and I like the fact that this father, made it clear and elaborated on the interaction he had with the president and Pete Hegseth, honoring the fallen soldiers. Because listen, they're sacrificing their lives to protect this country, whether we agree with the decisions who's ever in the White House is making or in charge of the War Department. They put their life on the line, whether it was by hostile forces or just a lot of things happen to people get injured on the job in training or like refueling. That's dangerous. So it doesn't make them incompetent. It's just that you could be killed. So for him saying, listen, basically saying, listen, this is serious. And, and what my son and what other soldiers put their lives on the line to do. And I basically don't appreciate the news media trying to spin it and spin the narrative, and create some propaganda and false narrative. So just to get clicks and views. And,
Well, one thing I'd add to this mix, Trump paid them a visit, and Trump has been moved into that category of people who've been tested. If somebody shot at you, tried to kill you, tried to knife you, or something like that, or you jumped out of airplanes and you have the nerve to jump again, or you've been a diver and you've gone down way deep and you've had a crisis underwater, you survived but keep doing it again. Are you a race car driver and you can look death in the face, or the high possibility, if not probability, of something bad happening? Then you have cojones that a lot of other people do not have. And I say that because it's a masculine image thing, but it's not just necessarily confined to men. Now, when you have been tested and you have shown that your life was subject to extinction or diminution, and you've still been able to hang, that says you have a certain kind of character that other people lack. And that's one thing that impressed me. This weekend,
Well, we have to guess, so we got
I
to.
know I'm gonna. This goes directly to her. I was at a celebration that was being put on in an outer-lying county, and we looked at several angles, video-wise, reconstructions of what happened to Donald Trump when that person shot at him when he was campaigning and the bullet grazed his ear. Now, he didn't go run and duck and hide. He jumped up and he gave the power fist, and you can see the Secret Service agents trying to pull him down. And that shakes personal courage. And I like it that we've got a person in charge of the military who has demonstrated personal courage. Now, too many of them that we have had in those positions have not done that because they've never been in a situation where they had to.
All right.
So
I need to
there
bring
you go.
Hi, Rosemary. How are you? Can you hear
I'm
me?
good. How are you?
Good. Nice to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so actually let me get your information going across the screen. Yeah, so is it Rosemary?
It's Rosemary.
I always say Rosemary. Rosemary, running for
Rosemary.
Congress, District 1 in
Yeah.
Ohio. So guys, please go to her website and donate, which is very important. And if you do live in
Yes.
District 1, Ohio, go and vote. So I wanted to bring you back on to talk about data centers, right? Data centers have been making headlines lately, and the people are not upset. So particularly in Ohio. So it says the largest data center in the world is planned to be built in Ohio, and it'll cost up to
$4 billion.
40 billion. Yeah, $40 billion to construct. Is that right? Or is it supposed to be 40
I think it's
million?
4 billion. In Wilmington,
Okay,
they
4
have one
billion.
coming to Wilmington.
4 billion
So
to construct,
yeah.
and 3,700 square acre center will require 10 gigawatts, 1/3 of Ohio's entire power grid
Well, I
capacity.
haven't heard of that one. I'm thinking of one in Wilmington, and that one is 471 acres. So I haven't heard of this one.
So let me play this clip here.
Rural Ohioans are pushing to block the construction of data centers larger than 25 megawatts across the state by changing Ohio's constitution. Supporters say communities are being left in the dark about massive projects moving into their backyards, while industry leaders argue the facilities are critical to Ohio's economic future. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for NBC4 at 11. I'm Colleen Marshall. NBC4's Samantha Bender tells us about the data center debacle.
After gathering roughly 1,800 signatures in just over a week, organizers of the proposal say they're encouraged by the early momentum as they wait to learn whether they can begin collecting signatures statewide.
It's amazing how we all were able to link together and pull our own parts in the project.
Organizers say the movement came together organically, fueled by conversations online and growing concerns over how these projects are being approved.
People are reaching out and saying, get me the petition, I want to circulate it.
The group submitted those petitions to the Ohio Attorney General's office Monday. If it's determined that the summary fairly and truthfully describes the proposal, the measure moves to the Ohio ballot board. Supporters would then have until July to gather about 413,000 valid signatures to place the amendment before voters this November.
Obviously, it's a big lift in terms of, the signatures that you need and the processes that you have to go to. But the intentional choice of the constitutional amendment is to literally put the fate of Ohio in the hands of Ohioans as directly as we can.
Supporters say they're pushing for the amendment because they believe rural communities have had little say in the development of large-scale data centers. They point to concerns over the potential environmental impacts and heavy water and electricity use.
I know a lot of people have heard about like the electric bills going up or the utility bills going up. it seems like those are definitely things that are going to happen with the sheer amount of energy that these things swallow up.
However, business leaders and some local officials warn that banning large data centers could undermine a rapidly growing sector of Ohio's economy. Industry supporters say the facilities bring major private investment, jobs, and increased tax revenue for local governments and schools.
We have to balance the necessity and the positive impacts of data centers with the real long-term lasting impacts that these may have on existing Columbus residents.
I feel like
Ohio has become a growing hub for data centers in recent years, with companies drawn to the state's central location, existing infrastructure, and available land. As for now, organizers are waiting to see whether their proposal clears this first legal review. Local for you.
All right.
Yeah, this is a huge issue, actually, that I'm having to discuss often because of the new redistricting. District 1 now encompasses Clinton County, and there's a lot of farmland out there. And in fact, Amazon wants to build a 471-acre facility. It's a $4 billion facility in Wilmington, and the residents are not happy. And so what this news channel is reporting for once is not necessarily propaganda, it's the truth. A lot of the residents weren't aware when these conversations were happening, pre-development, behind the scenes, non-disclosures were being signed. And these are city council people signing non-disclosures so the information wouldn't get out that they're having discussions on buying all of this land. And so by the time residents actually learn about the development coming, there is almost limited conversation that they can have. And so this in itself, I get it. I'm a builder. I know what it's like to have those pre-development conversations, while at the same time, people should be able to, people should be able to have input about what's going on, especially at the earliest stages possible. As a congressional figure, my goal would be to make sure that they have the resources, especially in some of these small towns. And it is not downgrading the intelligence or the intellect of some of these people on council, but you need a shark when you're dealing with a shark to negotiate the terms.
Right. So, and what should the terms be? Because, you know, no one's not talking about the environmental impact negatively, you know, water pollution. And listen, if you don't know anything about that type of science, like I don't pay attention to that. I didn't think building a data center can pollute the river or the waters in that area. So what type of legal, you know, counsel should be able to be at the table to represent the interests of the Ohio people?
Yes, they definitely, I mean, in Wilmington, for example, they're having to build new infrastructure and put in almost like a highway in this town and in this area where they've chosen to have this data center. There is no water around that area, so they're having to bring these things in. These data centers do take a lot of electricity, and they need to build their own power source. This should not fall on the residents of Wilmington. One of the other things is a lot of these data centers get tax abatements because, of course, cities and governments want them there because it is revenue, while at the same time, why can't it be deferred tax abatements? Because what happens if they don't deliver or if they don't continue with the build? Now you're stuck with this huge facility that no one else can use. And you've given all these tax abatements, but the return on investment is nowhere near what some of these small towns could get had they just charged taxes. And they definitely don't need the tax abatements. But I think that's the first thing that a lot of government and officials throw at these big businesses in order to bring that there. And the jobs that they bring are not necessarily jobs in these towns that the people that live there are qualified for. And because they're science jobs, they're engineering jobs, and a lot of these areas that they're choosing, they don't have the workforce. So it's bringing housing issues, it's bringing infrastructure issues, environmental issues, and these are things that need to be evaluated in these areas. And so with the funding that I believe that they should be proposing is, okay, what does this look like structurally for the town? How much is this going to make an impact? And how much should we be negotiating? I think for Wilmington, I think they wanted to build like a firehouse or something, and in place of taxes. Well,
Right.
that's $1 million, but tax revenue, I think they estimated it somewhere like 36 million or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers, but
So
yeah,
I want to play this clip here because this is, one of these council meetings discussing the data center.
Particulars, trying to sell everybody, the legislative body, that from what I've heard, on their closed loop systems. Don't let that fool you. There's really no such thing as a closed loop system. It's still picking up water. That water in a closed loop system is being contaminated. It's picking up anti-corrosives, anti-scaling agents, biocides, and then what is happening is that water gets what's called blowdown. It gets blown back down into the aquifers or the rivers, or like what Ohio EPA is just right now allowing. They just dump it right back into the river. The water treatment facilities are not capable. They do not have the filtering media, and they are not capable of filtering those particular types of corrosives. And so that just makes its way down into our aquifers. And most of these communities are small towns and farming communities that have wells set on aquifers. So this water it's this gray sludge basically is not being cleaned, it's not being filtered, and it's being dumped right into our drinking water, or it's being dumped into a water treatment facility center that cannot handle that kind of load. And so this is a real problem.
Yeah. So
What?
go ahead. What did you say?
You know what? Just last week I was studying this. This dialogue against these data centers sounds just exactly like the dialogue from about 120 years ago against building highways. And the arguments came from comparable sources. But now, 120 years later, the descendants of the ones that were complaining most vociferously 120 years ago are using the highways. They're using the evil internal combustion engine to run the tractors instead of having the plows pulled by horses. And just like modern commerce depends upon highways and automobiles, trucks, etc., modern commerce and industry is going to depend upon data and computational resources. So this is the second quarter of the 21st century, which corresponds to the second quarter of the 20th century. And data, computational services, etc., are just as fundamentally important to what happens in the rest of this century as the automobile and highways were for the last century. Now, if Ohio wants to cut itself off from being part of we go into the 21st century and we prosper, or it wants to say we become a backwoods and comparable to a Rust Belt situation in Michigan, it has a choice. And right now, I think somebody needs to prompt it to become part of the future rather than remaining part of a past that will soon be obsolete, just frankly. But
well,
anyway.
yeah. Yeah, well, of course, Governor DeWine has been in communications and is in favor of the data centers. They wanted to do a connector almost between different cities in order to connect a lot of these data centers. And currently, there's about 177 data centers in Ohio. They're just not these large scale data centers. And I don't disagree with you. AI is not going anywhere. Facebook, the tools that we use in day-to-day life are not going anywhere. And I think the biggest concern is who should have to carry the additional cost, and the cost of these power lines, things such as that. I mean, these are, billion-dollar industries. They should have to carry that cost. I don't necessarily disagree that they're needed, but they need to definitely put some money behind these costs. And it can increase everybody's energy, around Ohio and in other areas, because we're able to look at different research because they have these massive data centers in other areas. Some of the opposition really is the sound, as well. They have these massive generators and lights, so you want to make sure that they are nowhere near schools. They are nowhere near houses, because if you have a house anywhere near this massive facility, it actually depreciates your property value. You can't sell your home if you're getting all of these lights and this noise, 50, 100 feet away, 200 feet away from your home. And so I just think that they just introduced a bipartisan bill, House Bill 646, where they're going to examine the growth, land use, and the impact by creating a commission to review all of this. Will it go through? I don't know, because we already know a lot of the conversations about these data centers, they're about to happen and I don't want to say anyway, but they're moving forward with this. And so while it is moving forward, how can we go back, if at all, for some of these small townships and renegotiate the terms, so at least they get a better deal and they're not stuck holding the bad end of the stick?
Have you thought about a relative computation of the tax benefits to the citizenry? In other words, you can tax the industries directly or indirectly. In other words, if they help out as they're supposed to, then there are other industries that are promoted and make more money and have more taxes that they would owe to the taxpayers. So the ordinary taxpayers or to the state. So with proper encouragement and a proper tax structure, wouldn't it be possible to basically make back very quickly whatever cost that the population is going to suffer by their construction and development through appropriate tax schemes? Wouldn't that be the way to handle it?
That might be a way to handle it. However, the negotiators, when they're having these conversations, aren't familiar necessarily with the entire project scope. So, what's a nice way of put, if somebody walks in and they're like, oh, we're going to build you a schoolhouse, we're going to build you a community center, and we're going to give you $10 million a year. If you're a city council and your budget has a shortfall of $10 million and you need that schoolhouse, you're not looking at the overall fact of what those long-term taxes are, especially when they come in and say, okay, instead of giving you, instead of doing a tax abatement, so they get a 30-year tax abatement, for example, in Wilmington. And for that tax abatement, they're going to give $1 million a year for schools. Do you know what the loss is between the amount of money that they're bringing into that $1 million? And so again, I just believe that there needs to be a fair representation at the table with people that are knowledgeable in these areas to negotiate and support the town with proper planning. And so I don't disagree with you.
Okay, one thing you can point out during your campaigning is when you, meaning the people, assess these proposals, find out whether somebody who is most vociferously opposed to something has somebody that they're trying to promote because they've got an under the table deal and they're getting something out of it, so that, okay, maybe you're on the town council and you're talking about a school right now versus 3 schools in 5 years. You want this one right now because one of your buddies that's slipping you some campaign funding wants to build his school and is looking forward with lust to taking a nice vacation with his wife on some of the proceeds. And then the other thing too, point out to people the relevance, relativity of the cost. the price that I just heard $4 billion approximates two B-2 bombers and their bomb loads, and basically deals with their maintenance cost for two of them over a 3-year period. So our Air Force continuously operates these things. So basically, you're just saying we got 2 airplanes flying around up there that keep us secure, so they cost more than this is. It's a bargain. Look how much is going to go and get somebody to come up with an assessment of what it's going to cost and what the benefits are going to be, so people can look at it and say, okay, now I get an idea.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, these are concerned citizens. They're doing their research, and it is very much emotionally driven. It is also driven at the fact that you just don't know what's happening in your backyard. And like in Clinton County, for example, these are friends that are on council. And so I truly believe that that's where you need to have this third party that is a fair representative for the people. And it is not city council people that might have property in that area. And so their property value is going up and they're able to sell their land. So, and I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I am saying that I do believe a third party, but again, legal representation is very expensive. Getting people to look at traffic flow and things like that, while they have these type of people in the town, perhaps someone that has a lot more knowledge and development and in major development, because this is major development for this area. And they're not just building one of these data centers in Clinton County. You know, when I went out there, I did tell the people, I was like, it's not, are they coming? It's when and where. And so these are collaborations with the Port Authority. Again, there's a lot of NDAs being signed behind the scenes. So by the time it hits the public, you know, they're already in the making. There's already been paper signed.
Right.
And we've seen this with development and just businesses coming.
And let me just say this before I let you go. Ohio does have a history of, well, every state does, but we're talking about Ohio right now. Ohio has a history of corruption. I just saw a quick documentary called Dirty Money on HBO, and you know, it's about, you know, something with the energy company automatically getting a state grant, and it's really no oversight. So a lot of nepotism, but particularly with the data center, when you talk about environmental issues, you're right. It should be a third party, you know, that are going to be addressing the citizens of Ohio concerns, so that we won't, like, where is the oversight? Who is on these oversight boards? We need oversight, but we also need to make sure that people, electricity and gas bills or electricity bills are not going up. Water is still going to be safe. And, you know, just to have, what do you call that, communication pipeline with the residents and the people of Ohio, with these data centers and our local officials. So
yeah, like I remember one lady's story who is with the Wilmington development, and she just bought her forever home. And now this data center is going up very much near her home. And again, when you think about, it's going to be 100 generators, and these aren't your little backyard generators, and the sound and the impact of that sound. And then there's thousands of lights. This is almost like when you see airport lighting and, you know, around these facilities. And so, you know, she has some concern in what can be done now that this is already an option on the table. And like I said, I went to that meeting, and when it was time for the people to speak, I saw Amazon get up and walk out of that room. Well, that's not being a very good neighbor.
Right.
And so in order to facilitate conversations, you have to address the concerns of the people. It can't just be, well, the city said we can do it, and the port said that we can do it, and the deal is done, and negate the impact that it will have on the residents of Wilmington, Clinton County, and just other areas across Ohio. And again, data, the AI technology, all of these things are very real. I support innovation. I believe that technology needs to be definitely taught from the youngest grades in the classroom. We need to build that in and teach them how to use technology strategically. It's happening. It's not going anywhere. It's advancing every day. So it is important. So I am not anti-technology. I'm very much for it, but I am also for the people and ensuring there are no bad business deals. And that just comes with being a businesswoman.
Listen, thank you so much for coming on. Definitely going to have you come back on. When is the primary?
Primary is May the 5th. Early voting starts April the 7th.
Okay. So
And
everyone,
keep it up.
Yes, thank you so much.
Maybe the big problem that you're talking about is the representatives that make the decisions don't know enough about what's going on to make them. And they need you in because you're on top of it.
and let me just be funny real quick, because you maybe some of your opponents gonna be listening you talk about the data center and take your talking points. So because
you know what? I got them all on my. I think I'm the only candidate that is like, hey, I'm against the data center, but this is a way to strategically ensure that when it comes, same thing with property taxes. I'm for the people because I'm a property owner. I don't want the property, my property taxes doubling either. But this is a way for us to be. We know that property taxes aren't going anywhere, but this is a strategic way in order to reduce those property taxes. And so you got to listen to your people. And even as a conservative, certain things make sense, but you also have to come up with, okay, this is what happens when this happens. And it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. And I think that our people in our district, they need a representative that's going to do that, not just go with fairy tales that, property taxes is going to get, erased and these data centers are not going to show up because they're already in the pipeline.
Right. Thank you again, Rosemary. No, Judge, we got to go.
I'm just saying, good luck. And by the way, your situation there sounds almost exactly like the one here in Memphis. They're talking about Elon Musk and XAI here in the Memphis area. Pro or con.
I am going to definitely bring you back on. So, we got to do a part 2 follow-up and then, of course, talk about your campaign as well. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, you too. I gotta let this damn dog out real quick. Guys, can you please hit the like button? We're gonna be here another hour. I'm kind of extending it because there's a couple more other things that I want us to talk about. And somebody brought up Cuba. I definitely want to talk about Cuba because it's like several updates with Cuba. But what else did I have on the schedule? Oh, let me just go to TSA. You won't have to wait. Go lay down.
Well, mine just came in here to get me with that boss. Come quick. There's something going on outside. I went and looked. It's some people scrolling down the street.
Let me get to the TSA. Because you're not going to sit up here and rush me to take you out. Hold on.
TSA.
That's why I'm not traveling no time soon, honey. But I will be out in Memphis, honey, for that barbecue festival. But that's not until May, right?
Right.
So, and by that time, this TSA mess will be cleared up. But
maybe
Democrats, honey, this is the cause. The Democrats caused this TSA chaos. So let me play this clip.
But first, passengers at airports across the country facing long waits and sluggish lines this weekend, as President Trump says ICE officers will head to airports tomorrow. Madison Scarpino, live at ATL. Madison, how bad is it?
Peter, all I got to say is it is not a good day to be flying out of the Atlanta airport. The TSA callouts are increasing by the day. That is why President Trump says that he's going to start bringing in ICE agents starting tomorrow to help out these unpaid TSA officers who are still working despite, again, getting a $0 paycheck, and it's causing chaos at many airports, including this one. Just to give our viewers some perspective, We are in the baggage claim area right now. People have been waiting for hours in these lines. They weave all through the airport until people finally get to the TSA check-in spot. And I want to check in with some passengers for you guys. I met Jeff and Amber. You guys are heading back home to Colorado from here in Atlanta. How are you going to make your flight? When is it? And were you expecting lines like this?
We were. We definitely planned ahead. So we were anticipating a 3-hour wait just from everything that we've heard. And so we packed snacks and we were ready to go for 3 hours.
Yes, I see your lunchbox.
Yes, our flight is at about 1:45. So I think we've been here 30 minutes so far.
So you guys know this is happening because TSA officers are not getting paid right now. Congress cannot come up with an agreement to fund the Department of Homeland Security. How do you feel that that is what is causing all of this?
We're just very thankful that the workers that showed up, the ones that did. So, otherwise it'd be a lot worse than it is.
Well, thank you so much, guys. We are going to try and check on with them later in the show, Peter, just to kind of show our viewers the progress that these lines are having. So, yeah, craziness here at the Atlanta airport. Back to you.
Thank you, Madison. So we are going to go back to Madison's shot at baggage claim or however close she can get throughout the hour just to see where these folks that are having to pack a lunch for the TSA security line to see how their day is going. So thank you, Madison. We will be back.
Hey, everyone.
So, yeah, and then we got 2 dead pilots colliding with a fire truck in LaGuardia, a hot mess. So, what is going on with this SAVE Act? I blame the Democrats. Pass this damn SAVE Act because TSA need to get back to work. And the people who called out, they probably found other jobs because people cannot rely on back pay because you don't know when that back pay coming. It's not coming no time soon.
You know what they're doing? It's actually despicable. We had the government shut down for the longest it's ever been shut down because of the Democratic Party. They were blaming the Republicans, saying the Republicans were against Obamacare, et cetera, et cetera. That isn't true. What was going on is the Democrats were insistent on putting in a provision that would allow an illegal family of 4 to continue to collect up to $5,000 a month. These are people who snuck into the country, shouldn't be here, should have been deported, but the Democrats wanted them to continue to get $5,000 a month. And we've got homeless vets, citizens, people who have problems, and they weren't getting anything. Further, it is absolutely ridiculous, considering the atrocious health care arrangements we have here, to be giving illegals totally free health care while American citizens are denied that. So those were the 2 reasons that the government shut down, is the Democrats insisting on that. And the same thing right here. They want to make sure that their illegals can continue to come in here and stuff the country so that they can get census counts that will keep them from losing what is now predicted to be 6 congressional slots from California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio. So I think that is despicable, and it also ignores the fact that we are about to get a 911 2.0 because there have been some people from Iran, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc., who have snuck across the border and brought the means to do severe damage to us. So this is getting a little weird. And in this call that we've got here, these clowns, what is Hakeem Jeffries and this bunch of idiots talking about? If you let ICE in, they're going to be gunning down innocent people in the airport. Where in the crap did they get that?
Let me play this clip real quick.
Thank you for being here this morning, sir. What's your response to what Tom Homan revealed here?
Well, good morning. Great to be with you. There are 3 things that have been true since Donald Trump and Republicans came back into power last January. Life is more expensive, life is more chaotic, and life is more extreme. The last thing that the American people need are for untrained ICE agents to be deployed at airports all across the country, potentially to brutalize or in some instances kill them. We've already seen how ICE conducts itself. These are untrained individuals when it comes to doing the current job that they have for the most part, let alone deploying them in close exposure in highly sensitive situations at airports across the country.
What the hell is he talking about?
That asshole.
He's
That,
the cause.
yeah, you know what? It's a playbook. Somebody that I know who is a Democrat, nominally, showed me the little brochure that they've been sending around the country, and all of them are using these exact same talking points. So this is the policy, the plank of the Democratic Party. They're telling all of their little flunkies to go around and say this. And it is something that, quite frankly, the country has not dealt with since 1860, 1861, again, on the part of the Democrats, that led directly to the Civil War. In other words, they were trying to perpetuate why we should have a continuation of slavery and how that was caught up with states' rights, and what we wound up getting was a country that was polarized enough to start killing itself. Now, I don't think we're going to get any states trying to sever their connections with the Union. We are way beyond that. But I do think that there's likely to be a whole lot of chaos in these streets and elsewhere with a major political party advocating violence, killing, and all sorts of lawlessness as a matter of course. And to go out and tell people that if you've got immigration customs enforcement agents there, then they're going to start killing people. What the devil is that?
Anything, I think they're more qualified than the regular TSA agents.
Yes, they get paid more and they go through more training.
Right. And their job is about security. So
their job is to deal with immigration customs enforcement.
Right.
In other words, they're the guys that are charged with manning the borders.
I want to play this clip here of Senator John Kennedy. He is pushing a resolution blocking pay for senators during this government shutdown, and I'm here for it.
I wanted to avoid shutdowns. I would do two things. I would provide that members of Congress can't be paid during the shutdown, and I would provide that members of Congress can't leave Washington, D.C. during a shutdown. Now, I can't pass the second part of that. So I'm going to try to pass the first part of that. This resolution, again, it's not a bill, is about shared sacrifice. And I'm not doing it to punish anybody. I'm not doing it to try to embarrass anybody. I recognize that there are varying degrees of wealth among United States senators and their ability to go without a paycheck. I know and like every member of this body. And every member of this body has grown, who has a substantial amount of wealth, has achieved that wealth through their own hard work.
Yeah.
Now, that's one caveat to this. I think that's a great idea. The only problem is, as a constitutional matter, you cannot diminish the compensation that somebody in Congress, either the Senate or the House, receives during the term that he is serving, or at least during that session. For the next one, that would be a great idea, and I think that would pass constitutional muster. Now, you've got the Nancy Pelosi's who have done a killing while they've been in the office with insider trading. And I want to bring to attention something that I had to go check out because I had really not paid much attention to it. But this weekend, I attended a session where a Republican congressman brought forth the law and he was reading it. It was about ethics in Congress. And do you know that insider trading is permitted, but say conducting a side business selling skateboards is forbidden? In other words, you can't sell skateboards if you are a congressman, either in the House or Senate, but you can do insider trading based on information that you acquired only because you are an elected representative in either the House or the Senate. So that's absurd.
It is. And also, but what I think, yeah, what Trump, I guess it was Trump or Congress did pass, um, they got their, you know how people could get when if someone from Congress, the House or the Senate, they get first priority going through security, that they were stripped, so they got to stay in line with everybody else when they're traveling. So their airport security express access was that the TSA, they were stripped of that, of getting first priority going through security clearance to get on their plane. You got to stand in the long lines with everybody else. So that was taken away, which is a good thing. But I feel as though if federal workers are not getting paid, they should be included. Now, thank you for educating us on how the system works, constitutionally. But there are people who are not getting paychecks and you expect for them to show up, and some of them was like F you, and now we have this chaos going on in the airports. And like you said, the next thing we're going to see is a tragedy that could have been prevented, because now I'm wondering, are people staying on top of hiring new airport control center people, the people that the air traffic control? Are we staying on top of that, training hundreds of new people, because we need more people to be hired for air traffic control? LaGuardia just had an accident. 2 pilots died because the tip of the airplane smashed. Air Canada smashed into a fire truck that was on the runway when they were landing. So where was air traffic control to say, hey, don't land, or tell the truck to get the hell out the way? Either way, something's going to have to give before a major tragedy happens. And I'm thinking, God forbid, I think a major tragedy is going to end up happening first before
Oh,
someone.
yeah, probably. And then the Democrats are going to try to blame the Republican Party for the bullshit that they are responsible for.
Right. And it's like, ICE
Absolute
agents aren't going anywhere.
absurdity to
Right.
try and hold this whole country hostage to
Right.
their absolutely deplorably stupid idea of opening the borders wide up. What the devil is the matter with them? What do you think you have the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard for? And that's to keep our borders secure, except we don't think of it that way because we've got oceans. We just have one border with somebody that's nominally an ally, that is Mexico. And then we've got another one, Canada, nominally an ally. But most people is just right on the other side of that gate is a foreign country that their military exists to keep as a sacrosanct border. Germany didn't have far to go to invade France. You get it? So we fought 2 world wars behind it.
So real quick, Danny, yes, I'm not TSA pre-check, right? That's for anyone who qualify that fills out the form for it. The Congress, they have something better than TSA. It's not TSA for Congress. They just have first priority, and that's before TSA. So they get ahead before the TSA check people and regular people. They go straight through security, and that's what Trump took away from them. But I think
it's like you walk into a courthouse and you've got a court date or some business before a court. Who do you want to be the first ones to get priority getting in there? The judges, because until the judges take the bench, ain't no business happening. So if somebody, why is he getting in front of the line? Because he's a judge. Well, why can't he wait? Because, fool, you can't get anything done till he gets in there. So he's got to go first to make it happen. You have these folk who have the positions of running the government, so they get the priority, but they don't get it because they're too damn remote, detached, and they're too used to the arrogance of
They're not
position.
running. Yeah, the thing is, you're not running the country, and we, the people, are the ones paying your salary and voted you in. But the fact is that, listen, TSA, when it comes to airport security, no, you should not have priority, because without us, the people, these airlines would not have a business. The airports would not be necessary. And matter of fact, there are some airports that are thinking about closing down, shutting down completely, because they don't have the manpower, the workforce to continue to operate on a normal functional level.
Yeah,
So
and then the other argument.
here's the thing: what happens if airports start shutting down? Airlines are going to lose money. Stock is going to drop. So
Well, I mean, aside from that, the
I don't
problem
give a shit about
is.
corporate, but the thing is, how about these airline CEOs? How about you dig into these Congress people asses, because you're the ones who pay them all millions of dollars lobbying for their support. So why don't you force them, the Democrats, to pass the SAFE Act so that we could get these TSA workers back to work and back to normal functions?
Well, let's stop even thinking about big business and what they'll suffer and the pressure they can bring. It's like our cities have spread out. This time, 100 years ago, the United States had just broken 100 million people in population. We had the 1918, 1919 flu epidemic, and the population, we lost 18 million due to that epidemic. So it dropped down into about 96, 97 million people, not 100 million. But now, with the illegals we've got in here, we've got maybe 400 million people in this country, and we spread out because we have become dependent upon highways, automobiles, trains, and planes. And without those planes, there are several million people per day that cannot get around this country. And that would be effectively restricting things down to where you can go with an automobile, which, you're not getting on a plane and going 2,000 miles away in 4.5 to 5 hours. You're spending some days getting there. So we would break down as a system just independent of any business interest. We depend on those planes. And don't forget, there are folk who have jobs in other places where they jump on an airplane for 35, 40 minutes to get from Memphis to Nashville
Right.
or from
Or
LA
from
to
Ohio
San
to
Francisco.
Chicago, or Ohio to
Yeah.
New York City, and vice versa. So it could be a family emergency. Listen, Congress need to get their shit together. These are the most unproductive people in the House, in the Senate. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrats. They don't govern. We don't have a functioning government here. We don't.
Okay. Let me give you another thing. I just heard this damn fool say that ICE is not trained. ICE is trained not only to use firearms, not only to administer control over an area, which may be wild and out in the middle of a desert someplace. They get paid more. And what you have with your typical TSA agent is, hey, he's just a monitor seeing to the traffic coming in to see the principal at a high school. That's essentially what he's doing, keeping people in line, somebody checking ID. They aren't really equipped to handle an upset, but ICE is. So, what do you mean they need more training? They've already had much more intensive and exhaustive training than the people in TSA have had doing what they do.
Right. All right. So listen, we got more.
I mean, it's crazy. What
It is
what
crazy.
kind of fools do they think we are to buy into that bullshit?
Well, listen, we got some more bullshit to talk about.
Oh yeah.
And this is going to be continuing bullshit. Operation Gold Rush. So Trump has to create another task force called Operational Gold Rush, because we have billions of dollars in medical fraud, medical scamming. So this is the largest healthcare fraud in U.S. history, Operation Gold Rush, $146 billion medical scam. They already arrested over 300 doctors. So let me play this clip.
My name is Matthew Gagliotti, and I'm the head of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. Thank you all for joining us today as we announce the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the history of the Department of Justice. Today marks a decisive moment in our fight to protect American taxpayers from fraudsters and to defend the integrity of America's healthcare system. We are announcing today charges against 324 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes involving approximately $14.6 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. In a takedown this large, I can't possibly describe all of the work that went into dismantling each scheme, but there are 4 key points that bear emphasizing. First, let me be clear about what these healthcare fraud schemes mean for every hardworking American family. These criminals didn't just steal someone else's money. They stole from you. Every fraudulent claim, every fake billing, every kickback scheme represents money taken directly from the pockets of American taxpayers who fund these essential programs through their hard work and sacrifice. And when criminals defraud these programs, they're not just committing theft. They're driving up our national deficit and threatening the long-term viability of healthcare for seniors, disabled Americans, and our most vulnerable citizens. This enforcement action involves the seizure of cash, as well as luxury vehicles and properties, returning real money to American taxpayers and to our government healthcare programs. Second, we are seeing a disturbing trend of transnational criminal organizations engaging in increasingly sophisticated and complex criminal schemes that defraud the American healthcare system. As part of this takedown, we've identified and charged defendants operating from Russia, Eastern Europe, Pakistan, and other foreign countries. These individuals have infiltrated our healthcare system to steal American taxpayer dollars. As just one example, we dismantled a scheme involving a sophisticated operation run from Russia and Eastern Europe that strategically bought dozens of medical supply companies in the United States and submitted more than $10 billion in fraudulent healthcare claims to Medicare. To make matters worse, these perpetrators used the stolen identities of more than 1 million Americans spanning all 50 states to perpetrate this scheme and submit these false claims. But I'm pleased to report that federal agents intercepted and arrested key members of that organization at U.S. airports and the U.S.-Mexico border, cutting off their intended escape routes. The days of transnational criminal organizations using the American healthcare programs as their personal piggy bank are over. Third, this takedown resulted in criminal charges against 74 defendants, including medical professionals who fueled America's deadly opioid crisis for personal profit.
Should I play more, or is that enough?
No, you get the idea. And then don't forget to put into this mix the between 160 million and close to 300 million that our intelligence network has found that these Somalians were funneling from Minnesota's misbegotten experiment into Al Qaeda and ISIS, our deadly enemies. In other words, these characters like Governor Waltz et al. In Minnesota were aiding and abetting these people to defraud not only the people of Minnesota, but of the United States and fund people that are trying to pull off 911 2.0 who snuck across the border. Now that gets really crazy.
Right.
And it's time we did something about it because I'm on Medicare. But damn, Medicare doesn't cost me to just slide $2,000 that my last group insurance plan carried. When you deal with Medicare and the elevated amounts you pay over the base in the penalties for waiting after you're 65 to get it, my medical bill, excuse me, my Medicare bill with the necessary insurance to back it up was almost $15,000 last year. And that is just complete bullshit. That where does that money go? Hell, if you can get it done through a private insurance company for around $1,600 to $1,700, what the devil is going on where the government is sitting there putting you in a trick bag where you have to pay almost 15,000, 10 times as much? And you know what it is? It's because the Democratic Party has been advocating a position that says a criminal is supposed to be the victim of society. So he needs to be massaged on the back of the wrist, not even slapped on the back of it, and said, go on and do it. You just doing what you have to do. The Democratic Party has been advocating lawlessness with these sanctuary cities where they're getting the American public in the habit of somebody in authority saying, break the law. Now, we've got that. And then we're getting around saying, we want you to go break the law again and burn down the cities that you live in because you want to protest something. We want you to break the law and think that ICE is going to come in and start shooting you down. So you are about to be a victim. So you need to go out and do something lawless. So, I mean, this is crazy. What is wrong with these people?
So Ilhan Omar, right?
Oh God.
They're calling for her to be deported. So this is Grunk here. It says $1 million earmarked year 2026 DOJ was requested by Ilhan Omar, backed by Senator Clark Booker and Smith for Generation Hope, Minnesota's Justice Empowerment Initiative, substance abuse, mental health recovery, job training, and reentry support for East African community in Minneapolis. Organization is in offices above Siegel Restaurant and Coffee. 3 leaders list same home address on IRS filing, stripped January 2026 after Senator Joni Ernst cited red flags amid broader Minnesota fraud probes. Omar's office addresses opioid crisis via workforce programs, no charges filed. Omar proposed CPF earmarks. Year 22, 17 million, year 23, 24.7 million, year 24, 12 million, 15 projects, year 25, 15 projects submitted. So this is all through the Biden administration, all these millions of dollars and going to her organization, mostly local Minnesota health, housing, education. So basically you have these Somalians, getting all of these millions and billions of dollars from the federal government under the Biden administration for these alleged fraudulent organizations that's supposed to be for workforce and drug reentry, mental health, healthcare. It's all a front.
Yeah, one other thing too. I can say this. You take a look at video clips, newsreel clips going back 35, 40 years of Somali, and damn near everybody you see is fairly dark skinned. Yet the face of Somalis in this country are high yellow folk, like I can talk, but I can talk, who do not represent the balance of Somali. They escaped because they got run out of the country because they were ripping it off as an upper caste, almost like what you find in India with the caste system. And these people, the ordinary people in Somalia, were being exploited. So now they come here and they're used to ripping people off. They got to the United States and saw this huge field of opportunity to steal, to lie, to cheat, embezzle, and misappropriate, and they're going through doing it. And the fact that you hold up Ilhan as a typical Somali gets a little crazy when you actually take a look at your typical Somali resident. They don't look like the ones that we have in the news here at all. So
Let me play this clip.
that might give you guidance on what's going on.
Using legal authorities in Minnesota, and yet there were those that came out to impede their operations. Unfortunately, we had a very tragic incident resulting in the death of a young woman. But again, they are operating in combat. They are just as effective as the men that they serve with.
This wasn't it. It's this one over here. I got to share this one. Wait, let me stop sharing this and put this one up. It was a clip of her. This is about a month ago talking about Ilhan. Well, this one says here, Ilhan Omar ties to sister's Minneapolis health clinic, Somali health company, and alleged brother husband. Yeah, and that's when I read the thing before. Where's that?
That's what I was talking about. This congressman brought this stuff up, and he gave us the rundown in the code sections on ethics in Congress. And like he said, insider trading is okay, but you can't operate a business selling something like skateboards or toothpaste or anything like that. So he detailed Nancy Pelosi and a whole bunch of other folk who were sitting there taking the opportunities to pass legislation that impacted positively their investments in certain businesses, or to have passed legislation that impacted a business and using that information to buy into acquiring stock and influence in those businesses before it hit the public media.
Let me
That's horrible.
Covered the other day, and one of our spending bills making its way through Congress was a $1 million earmark from Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, which was an earmark that was supposedly going to a substance abuse clinic, which actually happened to be housed in a restaurant and run by 3 individuals that share the same residential address, according to their IRS paperwork. Tons of red flags. So this is what we saw with the fraud involving the daycare centers. Now we see other earmarks coming directly from members of Congress where it seems fraud is being perpetrated as well. So I raised the issue, and fortunately, the House has now stripped that earmark out of that spending bill. But again, this is how easy money has been flowing to bad actors in Minnesota.
It's a damn shame.
So my question is, there are a lot of politicians involved in this medical fraud.
Of course there are.
Yeah, and will we see any type of arrest?
Well, as I'm saying, it is so widespread that there are going to be millions of pages of documents that need to be reviewed. Hell, AI would be good for this. And real live prosecutors with the acumen to understand what they're looking at will have to review them. They'll have to interview witnesses, subpoena records, and then get in front of a grand jury. So it might take a couple of years, but remember, this administration has not quite 3 more years to go. And I'm thinking that maybe in a year, year and a half, we may see some indictments, like we just got through hearing this announcement about the medical fraud. That is something that took a little while to go through. I know I've sat down and either as a prosecutor or as a defender gone through stuff, and it's like your eyes are hurting, and your head aches, your back aches, and it's like habit I'm still in, getting no sleep because you got to stay up late at night looking at this stuff and then say, what in the hell is going on here? And then say, wait a minute, let's take a look back at this. And then dig through 300 pages before you got to the one you're on right now and say, oh, that's what's going wrong. Yeah. And see, that takes time. So when you throw an indictment together, it's going to be slapdash, and a good defense lawyer will be able to tear it up, just like you saw with what happened with Fannie Willis's debacle trying to go after Trump and the rap artist and went after the school teachers under RICO, which applies more to her circumstances than anybody else's. But you saw how a good defense team tore up garbage. That's just throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what stays up there. But if you want a substantial indictment, be patient. It takes time. The wheels of justice grind slowly. So I think we'll see some indictments.
Mm-hmm. Well, one last thing, right, on these not some on the it's fraud in general, but I want to throw in these Somalians because I don't know if you've seen this, but they flew to Selma, Somalians, to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, to protest immigration enforcement.
But the movement is transformed from them and then to us and now. This is our moment because our time has come to defend our rights. This is one step in that great legacy. Let's march with solemnity. Keep hope alive! 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 Se siente, Minnesota está presente. Se ve, se siente, Minnesota está presente. Se siente, Minnesota.
So
that's revolting. To corrupt what went on back in the early mid 60s in Selma is disgusting. It had nothing to do with what they're talking about. We were talking about citizens of the United States of America who were being deprived of their rights because of racist ideology that was a carryover from the Democratic Party enforced slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and the abolition of rights for Americans based on their race. Now, that was bad, and we still haven't overcome that problem 70 years later, 65 years later. I've been there on that bridge. To equate this lawlessness that they're trying to advocate, where the border is all of a sudden supposed to come down and anybody can walk across that border, is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
That's ridiculous. And the Democratic Party has if there is a hell and there's a place for parties, they need to be taken there because they need to burn in hell for what they've done to this country. This kind of hostility hasn't been around since the 1860-61 when the real life shoot 'em up Civil War occurred or started. And that's what they're trying to do right now. And by the way, Donald Trump's in good company because he's not the most vilified president in the U.S.'s history. The most vilified person is Abraham Lincoln.
Fine. Explain it to me like I'm two. The bridge, the symbolic gesture.
Okay, they had a march.
No, I know why. I'm talking like let me finish.
Oh.
The symbolic isms of the bridge. What the fuck does that have to do with immigrants? You get what I'm saying?
They're trying to see one of the
even back then, it had nothing to do with immigrants. The laws that were trying to be passed had nothing to do with immigrants, illegals. It had nothing to do with outsiders.
And the bridge doesn't have anything to do with a damn thing other than the fact that there was an incident that took place in proximity to the bridge. Now,
black people was getting their ass kicked by the police. So again, the immigrants, the Somalians and the Latinos and Hispanics going down there to cross that bridge. What are you trying to say, that you're being discriminated against?
Yeah, that's what they're doing. But see, here's
fraud going on.
Here's the thing. See, one of the propaganda tactics is to take something that is out in the public, words, phrases, events, situations, and you start using them to refer to your situation. So after you falsely claim a connection long enough, the public starts subconsciously assuming that collection is real when it's not. So they've been cloaking themselves with the Selma Bridge, and I walked across that bridge 2 or 3 times. Uh, been taken on tour by the state police and other officials. Dick Gregory and I went over there one time and talked about what was going on and his experience when the Selma situation was happening. Now, for them to try and clothe themselves in the false claim that they are somehow connected is absolutely ridiculous. But you see, the mainstream media that the Democratic Party controls almost absolutely is pushing this lie. Tell a lie long enough, loud enough, you can get anyone to believe it. And they are pushing it, and they are trying to use this old propaganda tactic of seizing on circumstances that have nothing to do with them, but they say they do so often that the public starts putting those two together falsely.
Right. Right. When you talk about propaganda, and it's disgusting because, which is why the Democrats lost the last president election. They weren't going to win no matter who it was. Why they lost Congress. Now, hopefully the Republicans, I don't know, can keep Congress this midterm. But when you sully the hell that Black Americans, particularly the ones living in that state of Alabama during that time, mind you, the 3 little girls that were killed in that church bombing, that was in Alabama. It wasn't in Selma, Birmingham. It was in Birmingham. Dynamite Hill. Why do you think they call it Dynamite Hill? So for you to cloak yourself in that, when your people coming here, you know, and to take advantage of the system and steal from our system, but then you're going to call yourself marching across the Selma Bridge because you feel disenfranchised over
Wait a
some
minute.
people's?
You're right. Absolutely right. It's ridiculous. And see, personally, it's August going on to September 1952. I was in the back seat of a DeSoto, metallic olive green. My old man was driving. My mother was in the front seat. She handed me a small Coca-Cola. She loved her Coke so she could dig in the glove compartment. And a bullet came through the left rear passenger door of that vehicle and shattered the bottle that was on my knee. And we were about 15, 16 miles from Selma, Alabama at the time. So don't give me any bullshit about your situation of sneaking into the country, or you want your Confederates to be able to sneak in here without going through the application process. Hell no. You have no right to claim what happened to Black folk or anybody else in this country back then, because nobody's trying to kill you, lynch you, shoot you, or lock you up for no reason other than what you look like. You broke the damn law, or if you came in legally, you are advocating for somebody else to break the law and to get the people who are trying to protect the rest of us out of the way so you can get more of this crook action coming in, because you got run out of Somali because you were a bunch of damn crooks in the first place, stealing from your own people when they needed your help and expertise to rise above their circumstances. You got run out and you came over here so you could steal from the people over here, because we used to trust each other.
Right. Now,
That's what's going on.
There are no Black American, and I don't care if you call yourself FBA, ADOS, Freeman, don't matter. There has never been a Black American knocking on Somalia, Ghana, Nigeria, not even no country in Europe. We didn't knock on nobody else's country or try to sneak into somebody else's country for shelter or for freedom or for a better life. That is what makes us a special type of people here, because all the hell that my grandparents and their parents went through so that I could have the freedoms now, they knew they had to go through hell, that they had probably faced death, despair, disenfranchisement. They didn't run. They stayed and fight. So why the fuck can't you do that in your country that you were fleeing? And then you come here, you steal, and you sully the Black American history and suffering here, which made it possible for your ass to even come here the legal way. So it's just total disrespect. And I'm tired of. I'm tired of. And that is why I don't agree with people calling you boule. And I know you get frustrated with that because you don't care what
I
people
don't get
say.
frustrated. I don't care about an asshole.
Yeah,
Punk ass fools haven't put it on the line ever. So when they do, then I'll respect what they say. But most of them are some real sissified idiots running around swishing, trying to party, trying to get high, ain't got no damn job, ain't paid a least bit of attention to getting their heads together and getting educated and instructed in what the devil's going on and don't have a damn clue. And basically what they are is the fodder that no good, unprincipled propagandist relies upon to spread the untruth that allows them to be enslaved mentally. The Democratic Party has been using iron shackles and chains for decades. Now they switched over to mental chains and shackles to just as firmly enslave a fool into a foolish position.
You said switching. They are doing that. These guys, these men are doing nothing but switching. But you're absolutely right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't care. But the fact is that, like, that it's a lot of ignorance. It's a lot of ignorance within people. And people, need to wake up and recognize when you're being hoodwinked constantly.
Take your punk asses to a library and find out what's going on, study it, and start doing something about it instead of whining about somebody mistreated your ancestors. Well, damn it, you always have an option, which is called dying for a cause.
Right.
And you don't really have a cause to die for, because what you getting upset about is a form of enslavement that you want to embrace and cloak yourself with. That sounds like the mission of a fool.
And then you heard them chanting, "Keep hope alive." And, Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, just passed away recently. Again, disrespectful. Keep hope alive for what? You were not a factor here in this country when he even coined that.
Well, okay, and then let's get to another thing. Dick Gregory and I were talking at one of the fetes they had in Selma. And Dick Gregory was talking about how Jesse Jackson got his ass whooped one time by some of the local yokels around there. So I don't see any of them getting put through that.
Right. If you ain't get put in, if you didn't go through adversity of obtaining freedom, what it takes to attain freedom, because freedom is not free. It's not.
No, it's not. And when especially your idea of freedom is, oh my God, look at how easily I can steal. And then you got a party that's running around saying it's okay. And you have judges that this party pushes who say it's okay. And then they try to cut the police, which is not okay. And then they try to cut the task forces that come in to restore law and order. That's not okay. What the hell is going wrong with us? How in the devil can you even support that bullshit?
Exactly. Two more things.
And I did that with a little dramatic flair for purposes of emphasis.
No, because it's like when I start reminding you, like you see the history of Alabama that Black people went through hell, and your little buck-eyed asses come down there, talking about some keep hope alive and all this speaking in Spanish shit. Get the hell out of here.
And I don't even buy keep hope alive bullshit anyway, because there's always something you can do. And I'm not somebody that sits back like a craven eunuch and enjoys suffering because I'm not a masochist. That's what problem with the Democratic Party is. They're too deep into that S&M sadomasochistic bullshit that some freaks want to pull off on each other. And I guess they enjoy being tied up with an apple strapped to their mouths while somebody takes a whip to their bare behinds, and they take their own personal people puppies to the vets to get them neutered, fixed, and turned into some kind of freak so they never can grow up to be men and women. And if they don't do getting the balls cut off is a thing, then they try to cut the balls out of somebody's brain, or the ovaries out of somebody's brain, so they don't grow up to be anything except a specimen of Freak City.
Well, you said a eunuch, because that's somebody who don't have testicles, correct?
That's right. And that's what they do when they fix these fools. That's that whole ultimate extension of that tranny thing. They want to get fixed. And that's what Trump did to try and save the military. He cut that shit out because we were spending more money on trannies getting their balls cut off and neutered so they could become more fit to wear a skirt rather than some... I won't even go into it. It's ridiculous.
When you say eunuch, Varys, the character of Varys in Game of Thrones, he was a eunuch. He got his balls cut off by some sorcerer.
Yeah, he did. I watched Game of Thrones.
That was a good description. That's a perfect description. Yeah.
The Democratic Party wants you to become a eunuch. In other words, we take our dogs to the vets to get fixed so they don't run around and drop all kinds of puppies we don't have homes for. That sounds like the Democratic Party talking about people. That's what they're doing in our schools. They're spreading that rainbow garbage through our schools. There are no crosses in the schools. There are no Hebrew stars, no Islamic crescents, no images of Shiva or Buddha in these schools. They got a rainbow thing, and what they're pushing is for these children to be taken to a vet and neutered so they do not grow up as men and women. They grow up, I want to be something else because I don't want the responsibility. I don't feel like doing that. In other words, you aren't taking up your burden for humanity. You're trying to get a free ride, and that's their whole damn policy. Everybody's supposed to get a free ride by feeling like you are a pathetic victim who relishes getting his or her ass kicked by somebody else, and you like getting beat on because you're a masochist, and because you are a victim, you're supposed to be entitled to be taken care of like you're some kind of child because you can't grow up to be an adult and take care of your own damn self. That is absolutely pathetic.
Right. So, a little bit of pop culture. This and one more thing I wanted to talk about. So Justin Timberlake, he is he's a celebrity singer, superstar,
I know
whatever.
he is.
Well, he got a DUI, and this was like over a year ago. And the body cam was released because I think he ended up pleading guilty because I think it was some cocaine in his system along with alcohol. But the body cam came out, and he was fighting with the courts to make it not come out, but it's been released. And I wanted to play this clip because I think he was talking too much. His lawyer wasn't there yet. And it was just too much conversation. Oh my fucking God. Shit.
What now? We can hear you.
1 second.
I got a story about him that's interesting. It's kind of funny.
Can you tell the story first? Because I got to.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell the story. It's been 25 years ago, but my then last wife wanted a car, so we hooked up a deal to buy this Porsche at a pretty good price. Not the one I have now, but another one. And he had bought it for his girlfriend, and I guess they broke up. So
which girlfriend? Was it Britney Spears?
No, I won't mention. I don't even know really. But anyway,
You remember the year this was?
this was 25, 26 years ago. So he didn't want the car anymore. So we got a good deal. But I think somebody put a hex on that car. Let's see. There was something fell off of a building and hit it. Let's see, a parking attendant got the thing damaged by one of the arms that he didn't get up adequately. Some woman backed into it in a parking lot. Somebody running for mayor of Ojai, California, backed out of a driveway with 6 kids in a van and ran into it.
This is after you bought the Porsche from him.
Yes, after I bought the damn thing. So it got traded in later, but everything possible to happen to that that Porsche happened. I guess whoever bought it didn't like him and put a X on it. So
I think so, because
that thing has more stuff that went wrong. I mean,
in
it
California,
was like,
you have a lot of witches out there and stuff. Like they're into that.
yeah. I mean, there was even one incident where it was parked in it was a boulder, really, rolled down the hill and hit the cars who was parked.
What did you end up doing with the car?
She traded it in on another vehicle, but that thing had more stuff going wrong with it, and it would happen when nobody was in the car too. Or at least not anybody that had any connection with the ownership. But anyway.
All right, so I got a little bit. Let me play this clip.
I don't know the details, obviously. I wasn't the one to stop you. My partner here observed you some kind of traffic violation, started a traffic stop, believed you have impairment, did a series of routine tests on you, right? Field sobriety tests, okay? You performed poorly on those, okay? Based off of his observations, you are intoxicated.
Okay.
So you were under arrest for DWI. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, awesome. All we're asking is if you understand what was just read to you.
Yeah, I hear you.
Perfect.
And I'm gonna reread this again. We're gonna go through the rest of it, but at this
I got you.
At this point, it asks for initials. If you don't want to initial, you're not required to. You can't be forced to, and then I will read the rest of it, okay? Will you initial or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll read the rest of it for you. Now, do you consent or refuse to the chemical test?
No, I'm not doing the chemical test. Like, guys, I don't mean no harm. Like,
I understand. We believe you to be under the influence of alcohol.
Okay.
And operating a motor vehicle, right?
Okay, but I don't mean no harm.
I didn't say you did, right? Everyone makes a mistake or two in their life, right? You had too much to drink, you drove the car, right?
Okay.
It's whatever, I'm not here to judge you. We got a job today.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your understanding.
By the way, I appreciate that you're doing that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. What was the traffic violation I missed?
I observed you.
Just so I know for future reference.
I observed you failing to fully stop at the stop sign, and then while you were driving, you failed to keep right on numerous occasions. So you were very.
Wait, start over? Sorry.
So
one more time.
You failed to stop at the stop sign, and then while you were operating the motor vehicle, you failed to keep right on your side of the roadway, and you continuously moved off and veered to the left of the roadway.
Okay, well, I was just following my friends.
Okay, yeah, I understand, but we are where we are right now, okay?
You boys treat me like I'm a criminal.
I don't want to say that because, you're being arrested, so for misdemeanor DWI. I don't like the culpable names, Mr. Timberlake, but we're just the situation that we're in, unfortunately, okay? I'm trying my best to treat you like anybody else, okay? I appreciate your cooperation.
Yeah, man.
Most people, a lot of people don't cooperate like this. So it goes a long way in my book. I appreciate it.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, happy to answer anything I can.
Is this the normal process?
Yeah, everything is pretty standard. Nothing out of the ordinary. We do this for everyone that gets arrested for DWI.
Look how he looking.
Is there anything specifically about it you are wondering, or just?
No. I just wondered, like you really cuff people up and like.
Yeah. I mean, you're in our custody. We have to make sure that people who we lock up here don't leave. You know, you can't just leave. We gotta process you, everything like that. Your safety, our safety, things like that. It's just standard protocol.
Gotcha. I appreciate you boys for doing your job, man.
I appreciate that you understand that we gotta do
I
our thing.
appreciate you boys for doing your job. I had one martini and I followed my fucking friends home, and I appreciate you boys for doing your job. Yeah.
Just look it over real quick before you sign.
White? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man.
So you're being held for the night, and then in the morning is the arraignment. So in the morning, usually around 9:30.
Being held all night?
It might not be this one. You might be over at the other one, and they actually have blankets for you.
You guys are wild, man.
And again, like I said, you can make a phone call if you would like, the attorney and things like that. You're allowed to call right now if you wish, or you can call later.
Yeah, at any point you want to make a phone call, let us know.
Yeah.
Right.
You are entitled to have phone calls.
He can't even think straight.
No, but you see how he acted. He didn't get belligerent, and he could have been treated a lot worse than he was. Some people need to take that advice. When somebody else has the upper hand, quit acting like you do.
But honey, he didn't look drunk. He looked like he was high as well. He had that beyond alcoholic look. Like he was looking. He was
I don't.
Why didn't he call his lawyer? I would have called the lawyer and be like, "Get me up out of here."
Well, the point is, he didn't get a chance to, and there wasn't much the lawyer could do about it under the rules of the road. It's not like I didn't drink in life. Occasionally, I'll drink some wine now or a little beer, but it's always best to either be at home or have a room, have a designated driver, or have a limo so you don't have to drive. Now, the interesting thing about it is it's been, wow, 50 years ago, they had a special federally funded DUI court here in Memphis where they were conducting experiments on what kind of sentences seemed to be effective, what kind of treatments and rehabilitation programs were okay, and what was it about. So I handled every single DUI that occurred in the city of Memphis. I went out with the DUI van quite a few times. In fact, I did it regularly, at least once or twice a week. And I wrote up some of the protocols that they still use, and I think it's 38 states. So, yeah, this is the problem. And there are ways to defend against such cases, but like you said, I think his lawyer is sad that he talked too much because he conceded that he had been drinking and he conceded that he had one martini, which, by the way, is not likely to be the case because there is this formula that generally holds true that's got to do with whether you're male or female, because there is a difference, gender difference in how alcohol is absorbed, because males have a different bone structure and muscle structure than females do. And based on your weight and what you drink, there is a pretty close approximation between how much you drink, how long you took to drink it, and how long it's been since you drank. You can take, for example, a pint Jack Daniels and chug it. If they tested you for 15 minutes after that, you'd blow everything off the graph. If you waited 15 minutes, you drop down to zero. But as it crept up on an hour after you had consumed what you had, you would start rising until you got to your maximum level of blood alcohol, and you'd stay that way for an hour and then come down 0.01 per hour thereafter. So if you eat and you have a full stomach, it takes longer for the alcohol to hit you, but it won't control how far you get on the scale. The general rule is a person who weighs 180 to 200 pounds and is a male can usually drink a 6-pack of 12-ounce cans in an hour, or 6 shots of whiskey in an hour, or 6-ounce glasses of wine in an hour before they get to that 0.08 for most states. So
Well, it says here the pop star's lawyer argued in a lawsuit earlier this year against the village of Sag Harbor and its police department that release of the video would devastate Timberlake's privacy by revealing intimate, highly personal, and sensitive details. In the video, Timberlake was given a series of field sobriety instructions. At one point, he said, "These are like hard tests." Asked if he's visiting the area, Timberlake said, "Yeah, I'm on tour. I'm on world tour." The officer asked a clarification, but Timberlake is hard to explain. He could have just said, "I'm a singer, I'm an entertainer." The officer then asked Timberlake for his license and the vehicle registrations before telling him to exit the vehicle to make sure he was good to drive. Timberlake agreed to a public release of the version of the footage that does not constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. June of 2024, and the singer was arrested for DWI charges after having dinner at the American Hotel in Sag Harbor. He was pulled over after leaving the dinner to drive to a friend's house. Timberlake, he said he had one martini as he was following his friends. Sag Harbor police said Timberlake was cited for running a stop sign and failing to stay in his lane. He was released without bail and photographed leaving the court. Yeah.
okay, now, if I was prosecuting, here's what I would have brought up. One, from the case that dealt with that very nasty guy whose friends wound up murdering him, Miranda. Anything you say, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and may be used in evidence against you, right? You've heard that. Anything you say can and may be used in evidence against you. Now, the Constitution says, through its amendment by the Bill of Rights, that you have a right to a public and speedy trial. Public. So that means anybody can walk into the courtroom unless the judge has due cause to restrict admission to the courtroom for something that is particularly sensitive. And if anything you say can be used in evidence against you, I didn't see or hear anything that was inadmissible in terms of an evidentiary assessment. So if the public had come into a trial, then what would wind up happening is they would get a chance to hear this. Now, when I used to try cases in some of the upstate counties here in Tennessee, they would have, in the spring and fall, they would have people having picnics in town square and listening to the loudspeakers that conveyed what was going on in or during an interesting trial so everybody could hear it. So that meant anybody that listened in on a trial would be listening to this, and people come to these speedy and public trials sometimes because of the entertainment value. And that's why they watched my show for 15 years, for the entertainment value. And you opened your mouth so you aren't entitled to have what you said restricted. You said it.
All right. So, Fannie Willis, I asked you this question the other day because somebody put underneath, I think it was either the short or a video, and they asked a question: can Fannie Willis be sued by Fulton County?
Yeah, she can for malfeasance. See, this isn't a matter of sovereign immunity. This would be the sovereign itself going against her. In other words, the county itself saying you misappropriated our funds. We're going after you. Also, she could be prosecuted for that. And the matter of having to sue her for the return of the money involved would be a matter of restitution. She could be ordered to do that. See, what she did, if you take it in the worst way against, in light of the circumstances, is misappropriation, embezzlement, etc., theft of public funds. So anytime you steal something or misappropriate something, the entity that was responsible for those funds can go after you to get them returned. So
Right.
she's already cost the taxpayers a bit because
17 million.
yeah, by bringing this bogus action against Trump and the
And it's
other people
bogus.
involved.
And it's,
So
let me say this.
she's the one that's responsible for the loss of the tax dollars. So they have a right to recoup them against her because it wasn't just making a mistake under the theory involved here that is operative. She intentionally and deliberately did what she did for personal reasons that had nothing to do with those that attended upon justice in that county.
Well, let me say this too, because you brought charges, bogus charges against him and the defendants that weren't true. And now you have, so you have her situation, and now you have the Fulton County being investigated by the FBI for election fraud.
Yeah, and yeah, Rick, what did I tell you when this was happening? I said, whoa, if anybody ought to have been aware of the Fifth Amendment considerations, it should have been the head prosecutor of one of the largest counties in America. And she wasn't. That was embarrassing.
Right. So you have her as the DA prosecuting this RICO against President Donald Trump and what was it, 9 other defendants.
I think it was I think it was a total of 18 people, 2 of whom
Oh,
pled
18 people.
guilty
Oh, wow. Okay.
because they had other situations that they pled guilty to, even if they
Well,
weren't
wait,
guilty.
you know what? No. Those 2 people that pled guilty, they just wanted a plea deal to get it over with.
Well,
They would have lied because they thought that Trump was done. Now,
yeah, well, see, what they entered, if taking
we
the,
never talk about those 2 that pleaded
well,
guilty.
let me tell you, I know what they did. It was,
Let me just tell my theory real quick. My theory. During that time, so everyone across this nation thought Trump was going to go down under that RICO. So those 2 people that pleaded guilty from the beginning, soon as they got the handcuffs on them, they thought that it was a wrap, that, oh, he's not going to beat this RICO case, even though what he was saying was true. He's not going to beat it. I want to take a plea deal. And if I got to turn on him, lie on him, I'm willing to do that.
well, I don't think that's exactly what happened for the following reasons.
For those 2 people
For those 2 people, they did something the rest of the defendants did not do, which made their situation peculiar in reference to the other defendants. And what they might have done is the same thing James Earl Ray did with Dr. Martin Luther King's killing. He took what's known as an Alford plea. That's ALFORD versus North Carolina. It's a moderately old Supreme Court case that says even if you are pristinely innocent of the offense, you may enter a plea of guilty so long as you're doing so freely and voluntarily, understandingly, knowingly, advisedly, and intelligently, thinking that is in your best interest. And the state has some reasonable factual basis independent of your conceding to the charges upon which to proceed. When I had that in front of me with James Earl Ray, the only thing that the state had was supposedly his rifle. It had been ordered retested by the first judge way back in 1968, 69, but it never got done. I ordered it retested and it was excluded as being the murder weapon.
All
So
right.
that meant that the state had no independent evidence. And in this case, apparently some of the things that had transpired that led to them being charged was different than it was for the balance of the defendants.
All right, let me read this. It says
And that's what they did.
let me read this. 4 key individuals associated with President Donald Trump pleaded guilty in the Georgia election interference case as of late 2023. Attorney Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesbrough, and Gina Ellis, along with bail bondsman Scott Hell. They all agreed to testify against other co-defendants, including Scott Hell's plea agreement, the New York Times, and Gina Ellis' plea agreement in PR. Scott Hell, a Georgia bail bondsman who pleaded guilty to 5 misdemeanor counts of conspiracy to commit international interference with performance of election duties related to the Coffee County voting system breach. Sidney Powell, a former attorney of Donald Trump, who pleaded guilty to 6 misdemeanor charges of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties. Kenneth Chesbrough, a lawyer who worked on the legal strategy to overturn the 2020 election, who pleaded guilty to felony charge of conspiracy to commit filings of false documents. Gina Ellis, a lawyer and former legal advisor to Trump, who pleaded guilty to 1 felony charge of aiding and abetting false statements in writings. Details of the plea. Sentences. They received sentences that would include probation, fines ranging from $5,000 to $6,000, community service, and mandatory apology letters to Georgia residents. Cooperation. All 4 agreed to cooperate and provide truthful testimony in future proceedings regarding the case. RICO charges. The deals enabled them to avoid more severe penalties, with some pleading down from felony racketeering RICO charges. This is why I said they turned their turncoats, because they did not want to go to prison.
Yeah, okay.
They were
No,
not-
no, I'm not contesting that.
Let me
I'm
just
just
finish
saying.
this. Let me just finish what I was saying. They were not going to get no prison time because they're pampered poodles. They were just going to get probation and community service and only pay $6,000. That is because Fannie Willis and Kamala and Biden and all the Democrats, they just wanted Trump on a silver platter, and the so-called truthful testimonies would have been all lies, because everything's coming out. The truth is coming out now. So her ass needs to be sued personally, and she needs to be fired.
Well, let me see. Look, that's actually yeah, okay, fine. But it's neither here nor there, because it is not dependent upon the accusations being accurate, truthful, or correct. They're entering an Alford plea because they think it's in their best interest to do so, irrespective of whether or not the state could prove beyond a reasonable doubt they committed criminal acts. Now, the other thing.
Wait, I have a question for you.
No, wait, this is one more important point. What they agreed to testify to is would have been something along the lines. Did you or did you not hear President Donald Trump say, find me 11,000 votes? Yes or no? Yes. Well, okay. So what if he said that? that doesn't make him guilty. That means it might have been hyperbole, it might have been puffery, it might have been imprecision of language. And see, you're talking about somebody on a phone call, and you're not talking about somebody that had a staff of speechwriters and diplomats come up with what is supposed to be a critical statement in front of NATO about a policy where it can be absolutely relied upon, which was one of the problems with Kamala Harris. She just gave that word salad bullshit, and it was bad. But see, that's like Cosby said, yeah, I gave them drugs and alcohol. That's what they wanted. I didn't sneak it in on them
But
and
this
take
is my
advantage of
question
them.
to you, because you have said in a video last week, prosecutors, lifelong prosecutors, are the most dirtiest, corrupt.
Corrupt bunch of people you can
So was
find.
that witch, DA Fannie Willis, she didn't care about the truth. She just wanted Trump behind bars and be found guilty of the RICO. So so the deals that those 4 people would have gotten for their testimony would have been basically what her office would have been telling them to testify to. Because remember
Yeah.
when we talked last week about that guy who did 20 years in prison for so-called raping that woman, and he didn't do it, but and then the woman didn't point him out in the lineup, but the prosecutor said, no, we're going to try him anyway.
But see,
So
she made a dumb, funny, prosecutorial, dumb, bunny move.
which
She
one?
gave
Fannie?
them Fanny. She
Yeah.
gave them the deal before they testified. See, what happens is they got the deal. They agreed to testify, but they could have just said, "Yeah, I heard Donald Trump say, find me 11,000 votes." That's what the state was depending upon to make their case. But the important consideration is that didn't necessarily show guilt. That was what this fool, Fannie Willis, and her supporters thought would show guilt. Just
Right.
think about it. It's not like I want you to go find these, even if you have to cheat, or go create these votes, or go manufacture these votes, or go forge these votes. He just said, find me. And we find that not only were there 11,000 votes, there were about 340 some thousand that could have been found if somebody had conducted an adequate search, because we now find that people cheated and concealed those votes where they did not count write-in, mail-in votes for Trump, and they falsified the existence of some write-in votes for Biden. Not write-in, some mail-in votes for Biden.
And
So
I,
in
you
other
know what,
words,
Trump knows he don't have friends, and that's why one thing I do respect about him is if you're loyal to him, he is definitely going to be loyal to you. You can't find that's hard to find nowadays, for that to be that type of reciprocity. He does take care of his people, especially if you are loyal to him. And I'm sorry, those 4 turncoats, like you said, they didn't even testify yet. They as soon as the handcuffs, soon as they get their mug shots, they said, I want a plea deal. Give me a plea deal. I don't got time for
and
this.
Fannie Willis was too stupid to let them plead out and lock the deal in before they had to testify. So
Because she
now they
she thought this
pumped
was going
out.
to be a speed up RICO trial before the end of the election.
Well, see, you know what happened? It's the
They were
same
on the
thing
time
you saw.
frame.
Well, let me tell you, you saw this in the OJ trial, to go back to that. Marcia Clark and Joe Darden, prosecuting in Los Angeles, were used to a lot of people that they had dealt with not having funds to hire counsel, not getting in with the public defender's office, not having the best appointed a lawyer, and they were used to people taking dives and taking pleas. And when they got OJ, who could afford a decent defense counsel, and they ran into Johnny Cochran, etc., they got their asses handed to them because they were in over their heads and delivered one of the most incompetent, effed up prosecutions I've had to suffer the agony of watching. It was horrible. So that being the case, that's what was going on here. Fannie Willis was used to slapdash throwing together cases against people in her district who couldn't afford counsel and who did not get the best public defender service or got none at all. What the devil?
You went. I could hear you, but you just went black.
Okay, well, let me bring myself back. So what wound up happening was,
Pressing buttons.
okay,
There you go.
all right. What happened was, can you see
Yeah, I
me?
can see you and hear you.
I can't see you or anything at all. I haven't been able to see anything at all this whole time. But anyway, what happened was
Can you
just,
hear me?
yeah, I hear you, but I'm just saying what happened was Fannie Willis and her crew were used to people taking dives and taking these pleas, and they just jumped into this in a slipshod fashion. And the defense counsel that they'd been bringing in weren't the sharpest ones they were getting opposed with, weren't the sharpest ones. And they'd been used to we can get away with anything we want to get away with.
Right.
So when they ran up against somebody that, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing? Nothing seems to be working here. Wow, what did they happen? Wow, how did I get put in this where instead of getting this victory where I was going to become the first black female governor of Georgia on the state Supreme Court or a federal judge, I wind up looking at jail and having to pay all of this huge amount of public money over to the team that I was trying to go put in jail. See, they aren't used to that.
Right.
And that I think is what drove it because it's like, okay, the fact that he said, I find me 11,000 votes is not necessarily condemning if you've got an adequate defense team that can cast doubt in the minds or maintain doubt in the minds of 12 jurors or even one out of the 12 jury members that this didn't mean he was trying to tell somebody to do something improper. See, you can always say, well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, now that we know there were 347,000 votes that were out there, did he do anything inappropriate to say find them? Where way after the fact, 5 years later, we find out he was telling the exact truth and there was a lot of basis in legitimacy in his request and it was nothing wrong?
Well, one more thing, and then that's it. Selena Lambert Ortega, a 24-year-old from Santiago de Cuba, created a Facebook poll on January the 12th asking people who should be Cuba's next president. Within hours, the post went viral, but the state security agents soon told her to take the post down. Before it was deleted, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had about 35,000 votes compared to just a few hundred for the current president, Miguel Diaz-Canel. The poll was taken off Facebook, but it shows you what the mentality is inside Cuba, said Noska Perez Castellon, a prominent member of the Cuban exile community in Miami. Growing public frustration comes at a time when U.S. pressure on Cuba is intensifying. Rubio, who is leading negotiations with Havana, has made the U.S. position clear. The island must dramatically change its political system. He said the current leadership cannot fix the failing economy. For decades, Havana managed to withstand the U.S. embargo with help from the Soviet Union, which provided subsidies until its collapse in 1991. Later, Venezuela supported the Caribbean island by supplying oil at reduced prices. This has played a critical role in Cuba's economy for the past 2 decades. Following the U.S. military operation and capture of Nicolas Maduro in early January, oil shipments from Caracas were suspended. As a result, Cuba now faces one of its most severe economic crises in decades. Large protests erupted on an island amid frequent blackouts, severe food shortages, and limited access to medicine. In Cuba, people are less afraid to protest, and many see that the embargo is not the main reason for their problems. Meanwhile, Washington is pushing for sweeping political reforms under the 1996 Helm-Burton Act. U.S. sanctions can only be lifted if Cuba meets certain conditions. These conditions include the release of all political prisoners, the legalization of political parties, and guarantee of a free press, and the holding of free and fair elections under international supervision. There are two possibilities: Congress repeals the law, or the regime fulfills those conditions to have the sanctions lifted. Other provisions of the law call for progress towards market-based economy and the establishment of independent judiciary system, which means in practice the entire regime would need to change. Facing mounting pressure, the Cuban government has recently announced it will release some prisoners and open its economy to foreign investors, including Cuban immigrants in Miami. But Rubio said these measures are not enough. Whether from rising domestic unrest or mounting pressure from the United States, Cuba's leaders now face more strain than they have in recent years. And this is why I enjoy the Epoch Times, because I love the way the articles are written. With that
Okay.
said, Cuba is in their third blackout. They're back in the dark. Russia was sending oil, but the United States Navy stopped that shipment in the middle of the sea. So they're back in a blackout. And the Cuban people, some are pointing fingers at the United States. However, they are pointing more fingers at their own government, because you have hotels where the state officials are held up with lights, but the hospital don't have lights. And people are reporting on X that anyone who was on a ventilator has died. There are a lot of people in the hospitals have died because the power went out.
I
And now,
sympathize for them, but a whole lot of people died in World War One, World War II because they supported or they were complicit in a corrupt government that was antithetical to the interest of humanity. So Adolf Hitler had people that supported him and suffered when the RAF and the USAAF bombed a lot of German cities flat. Japan supported their holy and sacred emperor, but they got a lot of theirs burned up when the B-29s conducted their fire raids. So it happens. We lost Vietnam, but lost in Vietnam, but we conducted Operation Linebacker with the B-52s, and a lot of ordinary citizens in Hanoi and other places died when the 500 and 750 pounders hit. So, I mean, that's war. All fair, loving war.
this is why I do blame the Cuban government, because if you could have the lights on in this hotel for government officials, you should have backup generators specifically for the hospital.
Well,
Why
yeah,
not?
and see, part of this problem is long term. They had come to depend. See, the United States freed them from Spain. They were Spanish. They were a Spanish colony. Spanish American War, 1898 did that. And we subsidized them for a long, long time. But instead of taking the subsidy we provided for them and setting up infrastructure and oil reserves, which in the United States, our oil reserves are 100 some years old. It's not like we just started putting stuff in there. They could have done that. And then when the Russians or the Soviets started subsidizing them, instead of using some of those subsidies to set up their infrastructure and get oil reserves sufficient to handle such emergencies, they didn't. And when Venezuela started subsidizing them in order to keep the standard of living up. They didn't make the long-term sacrifices to deal with such situations, and now they're paying the price. In other words, put something away for a rainy day. That's like mama's back money. Was when all of it hit the fan, there would still be something else that the family could fall back on. She'd put it up in the cookie jar.
Right. Well, here's my thing here, because and I understand, I hear what Rubio is saying, right? As far as changing up the regime and stuff like that, and embargo. However, why now? Why these extremes? Because, you know, under all the other United States presidents after the embargo was put in place, even let's just talk about Obama. We weren't pushing for them to change their regime for anything. Obama eased up on the travels when it comes to United States, allowing us to travel directly to their country by allowing their airlines to fly into Cuba. That was a big deal. And with that, a lot of people in Cuba were able to start up their own business because of the tourism, and their economy started to flourish a little bit better. So why now under Trump why is the Trump administration so adamant on taking over, doing a friendly takeover of Cuba? Just leave them
Because it's
alone like
time to do
everybody
it.
else.
Because we don't want, relative to the interests of the United States, this situation to continue until it brings up another one that says to anybody watching, you should have done something when you had the chance. You waited too long. It's too late now. That's like the conversation we had with the congressional candidate from Ohio. The information highway that modern industry and technology depends upon is just like the physical highway that our intercommunication and shipment of goods and transportation of people depends upon. 100 years ago, people were hollering about they shouldn't have highways because they were dangerous, and now they're saying we don't need information highways and data centers. But if you want to prepare for the future, sometimes you do things that might cause some immediate discomfort, but will prevent very large discomforts in the future. That's like why sometimes you put money away in a savings account or you manage funding for your retirement so you don't get put in a
Oh, I get all that.
condition of being destitute.
I
That's
mean,
what they should have done, but they didn't. They
well, we
said,
don't.
we're going to
I don't
maintain
know.
this socialism so we can get everybody happy and they'll enjoy this, but
Everybody
we
ain't happy
didn't
under
put it in
socialism.
oil reserves.
Well, yeah, I don't think there it was about keeping the people happy. Government don't really care about the people like that. However, we don't know if they have reserves, but from the look of it, they don't have it unless their reserves is only to pay Russia for their oil. But the United States is not allowing that oil to come through because of our international laws that we have in place. Wait. So with it's like they probably do have reserves, but that's
They may or may not. I suspect
but
they
it
don't.
was for Venezuela, it was for China, it was for Russia. It wasn't reserved to pay us
No,
because
I'm
we
not
never
talking about
supported
money.
them.
What I'm talking about is like in the
Oil?
U.S. system, when you have imported oil, there are statutes that require a certain amount of the import oil to be put into the national reserve system. Not only that, each barrel that goes into the reserve system has a bonus of $5 as a subsidy that go to the oil companies. So we've been putting oil into our national reserves for more than 100 years.
Well,
Matter
it
of
seems like
fact,
anytime we get into a crisis, our oil skyrockets as if we don't have any
no, that's
reserves.
bullshit. Bottom line
I mean, our
is
prices,
that
our
is a
gas
game.
prices go up because they act like we don't have reserves, so they got to
Yeah,
increase
well,
the
that's the
prices.
problem. See, what
Price gouging.
even Democrat Clinton could take care of that. He'd just say, you better drop those pump prices. Otherwise, in 2 days, I'm signing an executive order opening up the oil reserves, and we'll disperse some of that to the small refineries, and you'll be badly undercut on the prices.
Okay, let's bring it back to Cuba because we got to go.
See, but Cuba, unlike the U.S., just off of the oil reserves they have on Oahu, which is in Hawaii, if we didn't pump another drop of oil or import another drop of oil, we could run our economy at 150% of the current usage of petroleum for the next century and not run shy of what we needed. But see, Cuba sank its money into maintaining a standard of living and conditions that would keep its population from coming up with another revolution. And they made a mistake because, unlike China, unlike the Soviet Union, now Russia, and some other places, they did not build up the necessary material reserves that would enable them to operate were there another blockade of trade coming in, and in this case, oil, and it's done pursuant to the Monroe Doctrine principle. So that should have been expected. What happens if the U.S. gets pissed off with us? What can we do? Can we resist what they are going to do with a blockade for a month, for 2 months? No, we can't even manage a couple of days.
All right.
So that was a bad strategic mistake.
Rubio for president of Cuba.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Listen, thank you everybody for tuning in. I didn't get any donations today. That's all right. It's the end of the month. I know y'all gotta pay y'all rent. And real quick, because it's always somebody, it's always a bitch. There's always a bitch. Denise talking about some Dana. Please check your spelling before throwing up thumbnails. It does nothing positive for your channel to constantly post spelling errors. Justin, not Justine Timberlake. Maybe hire someone who whatever, bitch. This is what the fuck I reply at her. Shut the fuck up. The misspelling is not on the thumbnail, dummy. However, if you see a misspelled word in my title, just say that. Save the smart ass comment. I put save, but I'm gonna save the smart ass comment. Bold hashtag bozo. Bitch, you know how many times people will go in my comment section like, hey Dana, you misspelled such and such. And I'll be like, thank you, and I correct it. That's all your bitch ass had to say. All that extra shit positive, but that's for the birds, bitch. Cause you a bird. And I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't know what your face. I don't know if you black, white. I don't care. I don't have friends. I'm not trying to be your friend or be nice to you. The point that I'm trying to make here is sometimes you bitches, no matter what background you are, you need to learn to stop talking so much. Stop trying to be a smart ass. Just say you misspelled this word and I will correct it. All that other shit, I don't want to hear it. This is why a lot of women, you can't get a man, don't nobody like you because you talk too fucking much and you try to be a smart ass at that.
I'm laughing.
No,
I will say this.
I'm tired of being a fucking smart ass because bitch, you want to come here with negative energy. See, I know what I'm doing. I do this for a living. Do you really think I care about how many views I get on my live stream? No, I care about the fucking uploads, which is why I cram in a whole bunch of topics on my live stream. So if a word is misspelled, who gives a fuck, bitch?
May I defend you this way? I haven't encountered a major newspaper, with the exception of Wall Street Journal, that has not had at least 5 spelling or grammatical errors in what they published when it comes to those that I've kept up with over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and that's and listen, and that went through proofreading and an editor. So again, my audience and my live chat, they're my proofreaders. They always say, hey, you misspelled this, is this. That's it. And I'll be like, oh, thank you. But you want to send in a fucking paragraph, oh, this is why your channel is not positive. Bitch, my shit is popping. When motherfuckers try to suppress you, especially because of his ass, but when people try to suppress you, that means you popping. I'm relevant. You're not. So again, just say, oh, you misspelled this, but you want it to be fucking extra.
Okay.
And this really is not just for that particular bitch, but for all you bitches out there that do too much of this. You talk too fucking much, and you talk too much of the wrong shit.
Well, let me say this. There is.
Let's just say good night because I'm tired and I gotta.
I'm going to defend it. I've run into more people that have come up and told me what they thought about a podcast you and I have done than the venues record as having visited the site or listened to it or been exposed to it. So there's a bit of oppression. Like Facebook is full of shit. They banned me for life from Facebook, and I've never posted anything on Facebook. I just had the maximum number of friends. And
We
they.
got another asshole. You need to practice pronouncing words. Your accent gets away. No, bitch, my accent is wonderful. That would never go.
Well, okay, you're from New
My
York. That
accent makes
peculiar
me me,
place.
bitch. I
That's
know how to pronounce words better than you.
okay. No need to defend it.
No, people like, oh, this, that, and that. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm keeping, this is what makes me unique.
Come on, guys, let's back off. We are trying to conduct a venue here. Not you. I'm talking about the people out
but
there.
that's so my whole point is this, and she probably was a black bitch. Black people, and this is where I'm coming from, because even with like Miss Tina Knowles with the gumbo at the Texas rodeo, you got all these black bitches just wanting to go viral, trying to say her shit was nasty, they didn't like it, blah 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 blah, calling the health department, and a woman that called the health department ended up being related to her just so they could get clicks and views and followers on fucking social media. Thirsty bitches. So when I see people, and when I see little faggies like Michael, well, you don't know how to pronounce this, or you can't spell this. I'm not changing shit, because when I cuss you out the way I do because of my fucking New Jersey accent, it resonates, motherfucker.
Okay. What you get with the criticism is part of the collateral fallout from
And I can do
having
all this
free
first because
speech.
this is the end of the show.
That is collateral fallout from free speech.
Right.
Now,
I meant to address it earlier, but we had to guess and we was in the middle of the content. I said, I'll address this bitch at the end. But the point is, going forward in 2026, you fucking mammies, white and black, you fucking bitches, shut up. Just shut the fuck up. Watch what you say and how you say it, and stop being such a pessimist. Life is too short. And Michael, your punk ass, don't worry about my motherfucking accent, because my man finds it sexy, bitch. Very sexy. Fuck out of here. And listen, everybody have a wonderful week. Be positive.
All right.
Ass out, staying out late this week, Judge.
I have a lot of staying out this week is going to be late. I've got some meetings and some other stuff, and there's a lot to be done to keep this place free and to free up the shackles on some people's minds. So
I don't feel like I'm from Chicago. I'm from Jersey. I don't have a Chicago or New York accent. It's a difference.
Well, I never lived
I love my people in Chicago, but
I never lived in New York, but I did live in Chicago.
But what we all have in common, we respect you quick.
All right.
Fucking
everybody have a good week. Stay strong, stay focused, stay angry, and be motivated to do right.
That's good advice. All right, everybody. Bye. Let me do my damn outro. Wait a minute. Damn outro in here. Where is it? Okay. Good night, everybody.